The guy is weird. He's got a problem. And it's just, to me, it's almost hilarious that some of this stuff comes out, because any normal person looks at this and is like, what the hell is going on in the political world in America?
Well, just offer context, because we're gonna have libs bully Brian Noem about this, and yet we had to pretend for years on end that what's her name in the Biden administration, Rachel Levine, that Rachel Levine was like a totally normal person and totally a real woman. Richard Levine, whatever. Well, and then on top of that, Sam Brinton, totally normal dude. While he's, I mean, at least what we'll say, Brian Noem, nobody. At least he kept it private. No one so far has accused him of stealing anyone's luggage. I don't really want to take any polymarket bets on what he might have been doing with his wife's clothes. But
and if Cliff hates those photos, he's gonna hate the ones coming up next.
Oh gosh.
Wait, what? Hold on, what?
You know what? I do my job well. That's all I'm gonna say. I was asked, and
asked by whom?
I'm gonna throw Angelo under the bus on this one. He was like, "Hey, this will be funny." I agree. I thought it was funny. Yeah, let's pull up photo 18.
Wait, what are we about to see here?
Oh, just wait. It'll be. It's a.
Wait,
oh,
what?
there it is. There it is.
What's that?
And 19.
Hold on. What?
20.
Oh, that's disgusting.
21.
Pagan.
This is pagan. Yeah.
God.
22.
Why did Cliff get such a
Pagan.
Cliff's is way more low key.
Like deflated.
Yeah.
And
Cliff
22.
doesn't look weird.
And then of course the
All right, okay. So that's Marco Rubio auditioning for the job of Christy Noem's next husband, I suppose.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Doc Rhyme.
You know, if you're only listening to this on a podcast episode, you're lucky, and we're not gonna tell you what you missed.
Hold on, the Jack one was really funny though. Hold on.
Yeah, throw that one back up. That was funny.
Jack is here with us in spirit.
The reason this one's so funny is it looks like one of those like adult female books.
Rhythm right now. You take the actual photo, you throw it into AI, make a bunch of AI photos of it, and then just get a bunch of people to circulate it around X, and then all of a sudden you don't know what's what and what's.
This is sinister.
Full on.
We're cooked, aren't we? The AI.
Well, I'll tell you who is cooked. None of us can run for political office now that we all just laughed at those photos with the screenshots.
I mean, I was disgusted for the record. But good thing I wasn't planning on running for political office.
That's fair enough.
Oh man. Although I do see a Russ congressional seat at some point.
Oh yeah, no, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
Especially
after you aced the Lord of the Rings question. You're stuck.
Hey, you know what? I got marked safe by Nerdronic and the guys. I'm fully okay with that.
I don't understand why I didn't get marked safe. Why was I not marked safe?
Because you hadn't watched it. The problem was you explained that you hadn't seen it in like 10 years.
I mean, that makes me a normal human.
Well,
that's like
not
like I saw them when they came out and when they were like,
fair enough,
on the streamers at first.
Fair enough.
What if every member of the fellowship had the Brian Noem look?
Oh no, I don't want to do that. I clock out.
Please tell me you guys don't have those photos.
I don't know.
All the orcs, just like
Grok is gonna start being what is wrong with you? Right?
I mean,
we're turning you off. Yeah.
Man, there'd be a lot of subtle political commentary if you bimboed up the orcs. They'd kind of resent. They really would just basically.
Well,
be
Rings of
Richard
Power
Levine.
kind of already did that.
Yeah, so I've heard.
All right, so we are about to do a throw to Real America's
Far more
Voice.
Edifying content.
Yeah, edifying. We are all now dumber for having listened to this show. But I mean, it is a big show. I actually just to wrap it up, put a fine point on it. It feels like some people are alleging that potentially our ex-cabinet secretary was aware of this, maybe helped leak it. We have no knowledge of that being the truth, but we do have reporting that says she was aware of it and not blindsided by it.
It'd be hard to not be aware
Either or, it is a sad story because they do have kids, and I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
It's rough.
they can pick
it's
up
rough
the pieces.
when something like that destroys a family.
Yeah, hopefully they can pick up the pieces and I don't know what the future for.
I don't know how she didn't know. As big as those prosthetics or whatever you call them, what'd you call them? Male? What did you call them?
Chesticles.
Yeah, chesticles. As big as they were, I don't know where you're hiding those in the house.
They were a balloon. It was a balloon.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's a balloon.
Yeah, you
really?
Throw them in the
pop
trash.
the balloon. Yeah,
That's why they were so wonky.
yeah.
You guys have a lot of experience and detail on this. I'm very impressed.
Russ is the one with all the.
I'm new. I just got here last week.
You're not new. You've seen all this.
Yeah, that's true.
Carnage.
That's true.
So we're about to throw to the first stop in the This is the Turning Point tour, spring tour. We got Karoline Leavitt joining Erika, Kirk, and Jack is going to be welcoming everybody at that event at George Washington University. Very exciting. Starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to throw to, I believe, Real America's Voice.
Yeah.
Who's covering?
Bo Davis.
Bo and Ben are going to be doing the coverage, I think. Bo Davidson, Ben Berkwam over at Real America's Voice. Great guys. Foz, am I getting my details right?
Bo and Benny Harmony.
Oh, Bo and Benny Harmony.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think the first report I saw was Berkwam was going to be doing it. But it's a big night.
Berkwam's all over the place.
I will tell you, it's crazy the amount of press interest in this stuff. And we got an event coming up with J.D. Vance. We got some other things in the works. Going to be a great tour. And, tonight is the big kickoff, live at George Washington University.
To answer Kyrie's question in the chat, Real America's Voice is going to be hosting it live. So after this stream, you can go head over to Real America's Voice's stream to watch that.
Yep. They're going to be streaming it live there, so check that out. Any final thoughts before we do the throw?
Lord of the Rings is Christian culture. Thank you, and good night.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. But if you're a dude dressing up like a woman, that is not Christian culture.
Facts.
Don't do it.
Andrew, let me give a quick shout out. Erika came out with Tyler to open up the Las Vegas headquarters. Want to say congrats. Really excited about the partnership between my group, Citizens Alliance, and Turning Point. We got a lot of swing states we're going to be battling. Obviously, it's Charlie's vision, work backwards from 2028 with the presidential, and in 2026, I think it's going to be a tough year, but I think we're obviously going to do the work, do the ground game, and really excited about that partnership. We'll have a lot more details over the next couple months as we roll things out.
Yeah, that was a big development. Nevada is key to building the Red Wall, along with New Hampshire and Arizona. So by the way, if you guys want to get involved with what we're doing there, Turning Point Action, turningpointaction.com. Obviously, there's also Cliff's work, Citizens Alliance, but it's a great partnership. So congrats as well, Cliff. I know you're central to that whole vision. So big moves. And like I said, there's so much. I sometimes I wonder if anybody else is doing anything. As much like media interest as there always is. I mean, I'm about at the point where I'm just going to say, like, no comment, leave us alone. Like, legit, is anybody else doing anything? Because we seem to be the topic of conversation 24/7. Okay, we have a throw. Thank you guys all for joining. Blake, Russ, Cliff, myself. I guess I'm here. 10 seconds. Did you say 10 seconds?
Yes, sir.
All right, 10 seconds. We're going to throw over to Bo and Benny Harmony. Well, Bo Davidson and Benny Harmony. They're not married. Over at Real America's Voice. We will see you next Thursday.
Join us on this tour for freedom. A tour for truth.
You can't stand for truth if you do not kneel before the Lord.
And tour for the future of our nation.
Take back America.
This is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour, right here on Real America's Voice.
Well, welcome to Real America's Voice coverage of Turning Point USA's This is the Turning Point Tour. We have coverage for you for an entire hour before the program begins. I want to give you a little bit of background about what's going on for this particular tour stop. This is at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. at the Lisner Auditorium. I've actually been there before, performed there. It's about 1,100 seats. Should be a pretty packed house. Erika Kirk has said, the widow of the late Charlie Kirk, the campus tour will continue. Those are her words, and she intends to extend Charlie Kirk's legacy. The speakers tonight at this particular event at George Washington University will be Erika Kirk, of course, Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary in the current administration, and Jack Posobiec, who you all know and love from Human Events on Real America's Voice. This event will begin, like I said, at 7 Eastern, so we do have about an hour of coverage to begin with. On the ground are our correspondents, Benny Ray Harmony and David Zier, and we may have some other guests that possibly will join us. I kind of want to go to David and Benny right now because I know that you're there. David, let's start with you. Give me kind of a lay of the land of what to expect tonight from these speakers, the types of folks that will be showing up. You're in a very liberal area of Washington, D.C., but I know that you have a personal connection to the university, so let's talk about that.
Yes, Bo, good evening. And lines are wrapped around the Linzer Auditorium here, as you very well know and are familiar with, in the open campus of GW. It's a beautiful open campus here in Foggy Bottom, not far from the Watergate Hotel and the State Department and the Kennedy Center along the Potomac. And there's a line wrapped around the building out here to get into this is the Turning Point Spring Kickoff Tour. It's a continuation of the tour that started last fall, shortly after Charlie Kirk's passing. And this is the first stop in a tour that's going to hit University of Georgia, in addition to this, Ohio State University, Baylor University, the University of Idaho at Moscow, with more stops to be announced in the future. But this first stop will feature a lot of great speakers tonight. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, Posobiec, Savannah Chisley, U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan, Benny Johnson, Michael Knowles, and Matt Walsh, and others. And we can get into that. But my son did go here. He was the vice chair of the College Republicans for 4 years before Turning Point was here on campus. And there were 3,000 college Democrats and 300 college Republicans. And they caused quite a stir here. But things were a little bit more cordial back then between the parties on campus here. As you know, the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protesters nationwide have been really a little more vitriolic and in your face. But it's a beautiful campus here. It's one of the most expensive colleges in the country. A lot of socialists here who drive Beamers. So, but it's a great area. It's a great place to go to school. We loved coming down here, and we expect about 1,400 people here to pack out the Linzer Auditorium this evening.
All right, David, let's go over to Benny Ray Harmony. Benny, I know that you're in a room that's close to the stage. I know that you've been talking to a number of the chapter presidents and members of the club there in terms of Turning Point's chapter. Benny, talk to me about some of the people you've spoken with already and why they're excited about tonight's campus stop.
Yeah, Bo, we spoke to 4 students as of now, 2 girls, 2 boys. We spoke to the president of the Turning Point chapter here at GWU, and he really talked about submitting Charlie's legacy and that is why he feels called to do this and to lead this chapter here. Another one, we spoke to a young girl named Juliet. She is a freshman here at the university who, she struggled in a way with expressing her beliefs and finding people that understand that she maybe isn't the most liberal, but isn't the most conservative, and she's really trying to discover who she is, and Turning Point is helping her do that. We spoke to a couple other students that have chapters at community colleges that they actually are here to join this bigger one for this event. But overall, the theme has been faith and courage. I think, me and Jack Posobiec earlier today on Human Events, we were talking about specifically, it's Holy Thursday, Bo, and I know you know that your great special is going to be coming out here this weekend. But today is a day to really put forth that faith. And so I think we can really expect some of these words and speeches from people on the main stage to talk very much about Christianity and about their belief in God and what that means to them, as it was so important to Charlie. But we are going to continue to talk to some students here. But overall, people are it's very hopeful. And another thing is I really think a lot of students here today today. I went into the auditorium just a few minutes ago. We are in this room kind of off the stage, but I went and I looked at all the Freedom shirts, all the students that are here from different Turning Point chapters. I saw a chapter from New Jersey. I can't remember the exact name of the school, but overall, lots of students, lots of smiles, and I think this just continues to show that the youth needs inspired, and they want to listen, they want to know how they can help, how they can fight, and how they can continue fighting for what Charlie believed in. So we'll be here on the ground this evening, and we will bring you guys some of these incredible interviews that we've gotten and will continue to get tonight.
Yeah, Benny, I know that you've got a couple of those interviews in the can. I know there's probably some other folks that you'll speak to. Kind of something I want to know, it pivots off of what David just said about when his son was at school there, 300 some odd Republicans to 3,000 some odd Democrats. George Washington University is not a conservative campus. It's not a Republican campus by any stretch of the imagination. I know it pretty well. Of course, the college I went to was also probably equally liberal. So, Benny, talk a little bit about those that you've spoken with thus far. You mentioned the themes that might come up, freedom, faith, liberty. Is the sense there, even at a place like George Washington University, that Turning Point USA can not just survive, but thrive? Do you get the sense that those chapter members are poised, are encouraged, are enthusiastic about taking back their country through their own university? Because I know that's a difficult thing to do. As David mentioned, it might not have been as belligerent and bellicose as it is now. So what does that look like on that particular campus based on those that you've spoken with so far?
Well, from who we've spoken to and just what we're seeing, I would think the word to use, Bo, is passion. All of the students that I've spoken to, they have this shared, driven ambition towards making this chapter great. Now, I didn't interview this girl, but she came up to me. She's actually from Georgetown. She said she follows Real America's Voice, and she follows us and me on social media. And she said, just continue doing what you're doing. You're giving us inspiration at these liberal universities, that we have people that understand and that we have people that will have our back. And so I'm not sure actually really how big the Turning Point chapter is here, Bo, but when David said the lines are wrapping around the building, I stepped outside. They are. And there are students coming from, I think, all around the district, not just GW University, but it's very overwhelming. I'm a little surprised by actually how many people we're seeing and how many young people. When Posobiec and I pulled in today, there were some protesters, obviously, but not the same amount of students that are here today. And that really put a smile on my face, because I think it shows that they aren't giving up and that they do feel like they can take it back. And one of the other things I talked to a few students about, he goes, we're in the heart of the nation. We are in the nation's capital. And so to get to have a Turning Point chapter in a university like GW is huge. And so he said the amount of other schools that we have that are coming together, he said, so we're making a larger hub almost with all these other universities within DC to really, build that momentum and to gain the quantity of people when it comes into these liberal universities, and making sure that the liberals aren't the only ones that are overpowering, but conservatives can too and have a voice.
Yeah, absolutely, Benny. I mean, I think it's important to make such a statement in our nation's capital. And David, you know this better than anyone else. I mean, the places you've lived and places where you work, especially like Long Island, and having so much dealings in New York City, and you understand the city very well and how liberal policies can send it astray. David, last week when we were at CPAC, and I'm just now kind of remembering this, when I was having dinner by myself at one of the restaurants there was a young lady who asked what I did and everything, because there were people coming up to me, different journalists and people I'd seen before, and she told me it was her first CPAC. And it was interesting because I was like, "Is this your first CPAC?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Where you come from?" I think she came from Oregon. I said, "Well, how in the world are you here at CPAC for the first time, being so young? Why are you here?" She said, "Well, because I got involved in a Turning Point USA chapter in the state of Oregon." And this was her first event. She wanted to come see what CPAC was all about. And it's interesting because CPAC does have a different tenor. It does have a different quality or characteristic from Turning Point USA's event, especially America America Fest that Benny and I were at back in December. But speak, if you would, just in terms of those young collegiate kids coming to an event like CPAC, for instance, and the reason they're getting involved, the reason she wanted to come to CPAC and see what it's all about, and about elections and liberty and how she can change things, is because specifically she got involved in a Turning Point USA chapter in the Pacific Northwest.
You're right, Bo, and there's a lot of groups here. You know, a lot of upper crust or wealthier families from Long Island, New York, New Jersey send their kids to GW. They've got an incredible medical school. They've got an amazing law school. They're known for the foreign policy. When I was a kid, I went to the Morton Blackwell Leadership Institute Foreign Policy School at George Washington University for about 2 weeks, and we trained to take the Foreign Service exam, which I wound up not doing. But a lot of people go off to the State Department, and it was always a joke. You know, the guys who wear the gray pants, the black shoes, and the blue jackets in the State Department, would go on, would go on to work there who came from here. But there's a lot of competing groups from the past, right? You got the college Republicans, and like I said, 10 years ago, I know there were only 300 college Republicans. There were 3,000 college Democrats out of a 25,000 student population. So not everybody's political here. But you also had the Young Americans for Freedom, which I was a member of when I was 16. We used to go to college campuses and debate people. We used to call it Red Square, my local community college, my local state college, Stony Brook on Long Island. A lot of apparent communists who live in McMansions in Suffolk County. So, you've got a lot of groups here. You've got 4 major colleges here, GW, American, Georgetown, Catholic University, that all have TPUSA chapters, and they're gaining in strength. And going back to, say 2022, the TPUSA club here, what I understand, wasn't as active, but when Charlie Kirk was shot, there was a call to action here, and now they're building up the ranks of the TPUSA membership. And, TPUSA, I think they have several 100,000 members nationwide and are on over, I believe, 2,500 campuses at this point. So there is a new call to action. There is a new sense of vibrancy. And I think kids are turning conservative. And just to wrap, I would say that maybe here you only have about 10% of the kids that would identify as conservative. But I think deep down, there are a lot of conservatives, and they just won't admit it.
Yeah, that's probably true. And the other element I think that you just so astutely stated, David, is that you think about college Republicans back 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, back when I was in college, and I was affiliated too, but there wasn't a Turning Point USA then. And so you think about the legacy of Charlie Kirk and what he has started. And more importantly, unfortunately, after his untimely death, what he is continuing through his widow, Erika, through people like Karoline Leavitt, I'll just go through a list of the speakers that you mentioned, David, from other tour stops. Vice President J.D. Vance, Donald Trump Jr., Tom Homan, Vivek Ramaswamy, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Lawrence Jones, Savannah Chrisley, Benny Johnson. Anybody that's been to a Turning Point USA event, especially an America Fest, understands how explosive these events are. And for my money, looking at America Fest versus CPAC, the energy actually was in Turning Point USA's America Fest. Student action summits, young women's leadership summits. These are things that have an explosivity and a dynamism and enthusiasm that I'm so thankful, and I think a lot of people are grateful for Turning Point USA, because if it weren't for Charlie and if it weren't for his legacy, we would just have maybe just a hodgepodge scattering of timid college Republicans. And it's not like that anymore, David.
No, it's not. And again, I talked to my son this morning about the dynamic. He invited Ann Coulter here in 2014 to debate Lawrence O'Donnell, and he almost started a riot on campus, But again, it was collegial. There was active debate between the sides here. I wanted to add that a lot of notables graduated from GW, like Colin Powell, Liz Warren, Tammy Duckworth, Mark Esper, Mark Warner, J. Edgar Hoover. My son actually revived the fraternity that J. Edgar Hoover belonged to many, many decades ago. And also Bob Woodward, Dana Bash, David Lynch of movie Kerry Washington, Jacqueline Kennedy. So many famous people have been here from around the world. It's really been at the epicenter of medicine, of law, of foreign policy, and notables. And they got great professors here. Jonathan Turner here. There's so many great teachers here as well.
Well, David, hold that thought about the alums because they are a set of very distinguished alums, and I want to kind of touch on that when we come back. But let's go to a quick break, and we'll be right back in a couple of minutes.
This is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour. We'll be right back on Real America's Voice.
When the world takes its shots, some break, others rise. From Rachel Holt comes Ammunition in collaboration with Bass Records. Stand against the noise, the hate, the voices trying to tear you down. Every word thrown your way. Fuel to fight back stronger. Scan the QR code and download now on iTunes. Turn pressure into power. Own it today. Only on Real America's Music.
So bring it, knock me, tear me, rock me, mow me down.
I'd like to say this is the first time, but there have been others.
How many?
Who can keep track?
You think this is a joke?
Darling, we need answers, and you're gonna give them to us.
Tell us again.
My car broke down. I brought it here.
I got stuck paying an expensive repair bill.
So it's true.
How much, darling?
$2,300. But
$2,300.
What was I supposed to do? My transmission was shot.
You pick up your phone and you call CarShield before the car breaks down.
Plans through CarShield cover up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car.
That's right. A plan through CarShield could save you on some criminally high auto repairs, especially if your car is out of warranty. So, call CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company, before a breakdown and save yourself from getting stuck in car repair jail.
Let me guess. You hate saving money.
Who hates saving money?
Apparently you do.
All you had to do was call CarShield. And you could have protected yourself against expensive repairs.
Yeah, and then my price will go up the minute I file a claim.
Shut up! CarShield has the price locked in.
For as long as you cover your car.
I guess I should have called CarShield?
It's about time you said something that made sense.
Now you know what you need to do next time.
Bet he'll call CarShield now.
So can I go? Or
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. Don't get handcuffed paying expensive auto repairs. Call now and get the CarShield guarantee. Your price will never go up and your coverage will never go down as long as you cover your car. In just minutes, you could have a plan that covers up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car. Don't wait until it's too late. Get CarShield's best coverage yet. Call 800-491-4896.
This is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour. Right here on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to our coverage of This is the Turning Point Tour. This is a continuation, of a tour that started last fall, taking back America and continuing Charlie Kirk's legacy of liberty, of that word freedom emblazoned across his white T-shirt. And as Benny Harmony said, faith, freedom. We're in Holy Week. This is Maundy Thursday. We enter Good Friday tomorrow, and of course, Holy Saturday and Easter Sunday. We are in a very, very religious and spiritual time. It's time for re-engagement. It's time for renewal. It's time for restoration. David Zier and Benny Harmony, we have you on the ground there. David, just to touch on what we were speaking about right before we went to break, you mentioned a lot of the notable alums from George Washington. It's interesting because you and I have a connection to the university in a strange way. Not that I didn't attend there, but I did perform there a couple of years ago, and backstage in the green room, there are a number of their notable alums. Their photos are on the wall. And so as I was preparing, and rehearsing and about to go on stage, I was looking at all these different photos, and every single one was a Democrat. And I was thinking to myself, is there not one Republican that graduated from this school? You mentioned Colin Powell. I thought he was a Republican. I don't know if he still is anymore. But it's just interesting. And I think about, you mentioned Dana Bash and Jackie Kennedy and Liz Warren. So does this school produce any conservative leaders, or are they just kind of hidden across our great country?
Dana White, UFC.
Okay.
There's one.
All right.
And then you have Bill Barr, kind of, not the MAGA fans aren't nuts about him. But yeah, there are several. Listen, I have family in the Joint Terrorism Task Force who went to George Washington Law before entering the FBI. It's a common launching pad for a lot of different positions, and you don't have to necessarily be famous. And I meant to say, and I want to correct on the air, Jonathan Turley. I'm sorry, I didn't mean Jonathan Turner before. But, he's the best, right? And he's here. I don't know if he went here. I have to look that up. I thought he did. So, anyway, there are conservatives come in, but listen, you kind of go along to get along for a lot of these kids. If you're looking for a 4.0 and you're looking for a dean's list and you're looking for a summa cum laude or a magna cum laude, you don't always speak up and go against the grain all the time. You got to feel out your professors, right? I get that a lot from parents of students in colleges. And my wife and I have paid for 72 years of college and Catholic school so far. And we've got, so many years in so many different schools. And my kids kind of always told me they navigate through. I got one at USC Columbia, which can lean liberal, but the parents and the student body are conservative. That's in South Carolina. I have two daughters who went to Manhattan College with MBAs, and it's a very liberal school. They had an Obama ball. Oh my God, you want to see how much I flipped out at the administration when they had an Obama inaugural ball? I had enough. So that's where we stand here, and I think it's indicative of most colleges across the country.
Well, Benny, it's interesting because you talked about the courage and passion specifically about some of the students that you've spoken with. I think back to my time at college, and kind of as David Zier was just kind of intimating, I was performing, and sometimes I was in classes with college professors who certainly did not think like me, but being the passionate guy that I was, I wanted to make my claim and say who I was. And one of them said one time, "Hey, aren't you in plays and musicals with my daughter?" I said, out against largely what were his probably core beliefs. You happen to have spoken to a number of the chapter members here at George Washington University of the Turning Point Club there, especially where this event is being held. I want to know more about what those folks said, because I know that we have some interviews that you have conducted earlier, so tell me about those.
Yeah, I want to share one interview with you guys. I want you to play it here in a minute. His name is Ryan. Now, he is the president here at the GWU, the Turning Point USA chapter here, and he really highlighted Charlie and the legacy, but he showed a lot of passion while doing it. Now, he will be on stage tonight introducing Erika. So I want you guys to take a listen to some of the things that he had to say about his time, about what this chapter means to him, and about what Charlie meant to him. We're joined by Ryan Van Slingerland. Now, he is the president of the Turning Point chapter here at GWU. Ryan, first off, you're really big in the cementing of Charlie's legacy. You're a junior here at the university. What's your main mission right now when it comes to what you're seeing in this world, in this movement?
Well, I think our main mission here with Turning Point is really upholding Charlie's legacy. It's picking up that torch and carrying on. And if there's anything that Charlie stood for, it's courage. And I think that, we all need to embody that now, because if Charlie was willing to die for that, who's going to step up and take his place? But I think that that's something that we all need to do together.
And as a young man, Charlie was very big in teaching young men how they should live their life, how they should honor their wife and children, and just different aspects of that. What would you say that he's taught you as a man, aside from the professional side of things, but personally?
I think just watching Charlie all these years, I think two words that come to mind, aside from courage, are respect and faith. I think those are two very big things. And I think that all young men, all men, regardless of your age, should kind of have those two qualities, and obviously treat women properly, treat everyone properly for that matter.
And so you are going to take the stage tonight. You will be giving a little speech. Can you give us a teaser of what we can expect before Erika comes out?
I don't know if I want to do that, but I guess a little teaser. I'll just say, what we're doing here at GW there are a lot of other chapters out there, but I think being here in the nation's capital, being in what people often forget is kind of a college town at the end of the day, because we have Georgetown, we got Howard, we got American and Catholic as well nearby. Like, we have this access to all these other schools, and being the only chapter here right in the middle of DC, like, we're 3 blocks from the White House. Like, no other chapter can say that they have that. I think that we're a great representation of what Turning Point is supposed to be, and I think that we have this unique potential and possibility to stand as a leader and lead the way for other chapters around the country.
And Ryan, if you could give any words of advice or just really just any wisdom to the younger generations coming up as they start to go to school, what would that be?
Just be kind to each other. You know, be kind to one another, treat others the way you want to be treated. I know it's a saying that's kind of been repeated a lot. I know a lot of people have heard that, but I think it still stands. I think people really need to take that to heart and have some self-reflection as well and think, am I true? Like, if you do something wrong, just own up to it. I think that's another issue too. People have a hard time with accepting when they're wrong, and people just can't apologize anymore. And I think, you know, that comes from this kind of stigmatism of, you know, not being accepted. And I think that, you know, people just need to be more open with each other. They need to be kinder with each other. Just be honest.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much, and good luck out there tonight.
Thank you.
So as you can see through that, the main focus is Charlie, really, and that is the whole idea of that this is the Turning Point Tour. If you look it up, it says that Charlie's mission will not die. We will continue it. And so to get to speak to these kids and to hear how important he was to them, Bo, it truly means the world. And I think Erika and Charlie is truly smiling down right now, watching his mission continue to be carried out.
Something that struck me about what Ryan said, Benny, is he said, you know, we should be kind. It struck me because what Charlie represented was about having civil discourse, something we don't have anymore. Mm-hmm. Charlie's mission was not to go out there and talk at people, but to talk with them, to have an actual conversation. And I think that's something to see in a young man who's president of his chapter, to say, be kind. Let's have civil discourse. That's quite a different message from what we see on the left today, especially among that age group in terms of protest, Antifa, violence, hate speech. The very thing that they accuse Charlie of, unfortunately, they're the ones doing. It's a bit of projection. So I find it very inspirational that you had such a great interview with someone who can just say, be kind and have civil discourse and respect and courage. Those were the 2 words that stood out, too. So I think that's amazing. I know you'll have some more interviews to share with us as time goes along. Yeah. You know, David, just real quickly, you know, some of the past tour stops of this last year were University of Minnesota, Virginia Tech, Utah State, Montana State, University of North Dakota, University of Oklahoma, Indiana University, LSU, Ole Miss, where my parents went to school, Auburn. And then we get to this one, November 10th, Berkeley. So, you know, I'm looking at this list of colleges. I'm saying, okay, there's some relatively conservative universities in there, especially in the South. And then you get to Berkeley. So he is not afraid. This entire tour, without Charlie with him, is not afraid to go into the most liberal bastions of our university system, David.
No, but just to separate, this isn't Berkeley. It's not Columbia University, where you have active, you know, deans of the school and professors advocating basically violence against Jews. You know, it's nuts. So this is a different tenor here. You also have a very large Jewish population here at GW. It's a great place to come to school, and it's a great place for TPUSA to grow and flourish here. Because again, it's not as much, it's activist, but it's not what happened at Berkeley, and it's not what happened on the streets of Columbia. I covered those protests with Ben Berquam and, you know, burning flags in the street and craziness and chaos, shutting down the Brooklyn Bridge, encouraged by members of the administration in New York City now, and then Columbia just out of control.
All right, David, let's put a button on that right now as we take a quick break and come back and join more of Turning Point's This is the Turning Point Tour. We'll be right back.
This is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour. We'll be right back on Real America's Voice.
Hey, everybody.
everybody, Bo Davidson here. I hope that you will check out my Easter special this Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is where I go to the Museum of the Bible and tour two amazing exhibitions, the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Megiddo Mosaic. These are both very, very important to people of faith, and I hope that it will inspire you and your family this weekend. So please check it out this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Happy Easter.
This Easter weekend, Real America's Voice is taking you back in time. The Living Word, from Scrolls to Cross. Journey through history as host Bo Davidson explores the ancient writings that shaped the Bible as we know it today.
What do you think is the biggest misconception?
The biggest misconceptions early on was that somehow the scrolls were going to undo our beliefs. It actually does the opposite. What we are still practicing today has a genetic connection all the way back 2,000 years.
You don't want to miss this special event. Watch Saturday at 2 p.m. and Sunday at 2 p.m. only on Real America's Voice.
This was the last thing my Charlie ever wrote. The message of Jesus changes everything, changes your life, your choices, your eternity. And Charlie wanted to leave behind something that would point people to Christ, not to fame or power, just truth.
If everything completely goes away, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith in my life.
And my husband called his final book, Stop in the Name of God, because resting in God's grace is what our world has forgotten to do. So just stop and listen, believe and rest, because this is Charlie's final and greatest message to all of us.
I'm actually finishing a book. So I actually don't work one day out of the week. So I take a Sabbath every Saturday. Turn my phone off, no work, just kids, just family. It's an amazing blessing. Every Saturday, totally off. It's amazing how much work you can get done in 6 days, though.
I believe that honoring the Sabbath is the commandment that allows you to honor the other 9 commandments. When you're honoring the Sabbath, it's easier to have no other gods before God because that day is built in time as a temple, as a sanctuary to put God first, to not have idols.
If you are feeling overrun by society, you might be feeling depressed or anxious, turn your phone off for one day. No social media, no work. Your mental health will improve dramatically. You can hang out with friends, you can go for a walk, but don't work for one day. That is a day for worship. That is a day for the Lord. That is a day to go be with God. That is a day to read your Bible and be out of the busyness and the hurriedness and the noise of this world. I could be traveling for 5 or 6 days, but if I at least get one good Sabbath with my family, it charges all back up.
Call, scan, or go online to support TPUSA and receive your copy of Charlie's final book.
This is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour, right here on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to our coverage of This is the Turning Point Tour. It is live at George Washington University, the Lisner Auditorium in our nation's capital. This event will start in just about 30 minutes, so we just want to let you know that at the top of the hour at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be taking you directly to that event. We do have 2 correspondents on the ground there, the great David Zier and the great Benny Ray Harmony, who are there on the scene conducting interviews, also getting a pulse of the fact that the lines are wrapped around the building. David and Benny, we do have to address some news of the day. There is some bombshell news, of course, which is that Pam Bondi is out. This is news that just came through just a little while ago, and I'd love to discuss it with you. And to kind of kick that off, we do have a video of earlier. Benny, I know you're on with Poso. Pollster Rich Barris said it's hard to point to a single cabinet member that has hurt the administration more than Bondi. Let's take a look at that clip.
Well, look, I've got to pull no punches when it comes to the Attorney General. As a public opinion pollster, it's a little hard to point to a single cabinet member who may have hurt the president more than Pam Bondi. Nobody is the face of the Epstein file situation more than her. We've polled this, Jack. You've seen it. She's the most unpopular cabinet member in the administration. This is better late than never.
So, Benny, you were on with Poso earlier, and I'm just curious kind of the nature of the discussion that happened in the show with respect to what Rich said. That's a pretty bold statement. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, because we know Kristi Noem is out. A lot of rancor and uproar there with regard to her departure. This is big number 2, I suppose you could say, in terms of another ouster. What are your thoughts on Bondi being out, and Rich's comment that he thinks that she's done the most damage of anyone?
Well, it was a big claim, Bo, but what I will say is, which I told Poso on Human Events, is that, I remember sitting in the briefing room the day that on our phones, it popped up that President Trump had replaced Kristi Noem. And the first thing a lot of the media in the room asked, they were like, "Oh, I'm surprised it's not Pam Bondi." And I was a little unsure of what to make of that. But what Rich said today on Human Events was, she, or it wasn't Rich, it was another guest that we had, but he said that, she was not very good when it came to Congress. She didn't really handle those situations well. The Epstein saga, the Epstein files were a really big disappointment for a lot of people. And so I can say I feel like a lot of people did see this coming, but I don't know that we saw it coming at this exact time. And now the question of the private sector she's getting moved over to. So we're not really sure what that's going to look like, but it truly was a bombshell today that none of us in the press, I really don't think any of us were expecting. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But like we've all seen, the president did say there's no bad blood. He loves Pam Bondi. She's amazing at her job, but he just has a different job that he wants her to do. So we'll see.
Yeah, and he said that about Kristi Noem, too, and got her moved over to the Shield of the Americas, David. So it's kind of like, is it a demotion? Is it really a true firing? There's debate about that. I think, Benny, her intimation about the Epstein stuff, remember the binders that went out to all the influencers and what was like either in there or not in there. I also, David, happened to read something before we came on air, and it was from Colin Rugg, that said that one of the reasons that he's hearing that Trump was so PO'd at Bondi was that she has a friendship with Eric Swalwell and had tipped off Swalwell perhaps to the fact that an FBI investigation was coming out about him in Fang Fang. If that's true, I can imagine that would draw Trump's ire the same way that Kristi Noem drew his ire with respect to some of the stuff she was doing in terms of whether he, had approved that big, all that funding for the promotional campaign she was doing. So what are your thoughts on that, David? What are you hearing?
Well, there's conflicting information out there, because I just interviewed Kaylin Deese about an hour ago from the Washington Examiner, the Justice Department correspondent there, and he told me it's not because of Swalwell. So I can't clarify, which way it goes at this point. But listen, I think you have the congressional testimony. She was very loyal to Donald Trump for many, many years. I just wanted to touch really quick on, Todd Blanche is the interim Attorney General, I believe, at this point. He can go 215 or so days, which puts it right past the midterms. Just an interesting note. I watched Todd Blanche in court in the hush money trial. I sat in most of the trial with Donald Trump, and Emil Bove did a great job. And Todd Blanche, he did a pretty good job for Donald Trump. But I wanted to throw out there Lee Zeldin, who's the EPA administrator from Long Island. He is a terrific attorney. He was Trump's impeachment attorney, and I'm hearing his name getting bandied about. I think there'll be a number of people, maybe some hearings, but they don't have to do confirmation hearings, I think, until after the midterms or close. So we'll see how this all unfolds.
Well, David, let me ask you then, just because you followed this, A, did you expect Bondi to go? And if so, did you expect it to be around this time? Because Benny was just saying that a lot of people were blindsided by it. Did you expect her to be the next, another one bites the dust, so to speak? And past that, does Todd Blanche hold good position? How does the AG office look differently under Attorney General Blanche versus Bondi?
Pam Bondi's very passionate, right? And she could be incendiary. And again, very loyal to Donald Trump. She was a terrific attorney general in Florida. But Todd Blanche, I think, is a little bit more reserved. I don't really know how he'll perform in that role. And again, it is interim. We're just going to have to, wait and see. I think this is a shakeup. I think he doesn't want to do it too close to the midterms. I think he's getting his ducks in a row as maybe we're coming out of the Iran conflict or the major combat operations of that, and maybe the Strait opens up, oil comes down. We're not going to see an interest rate cut before the midterms, most likely, maybe. But, Trump's got to get everything perfect in order for the Republicans to keep the House, I think.
Well, David, just kind of on that note, the president did address the nation last night at 9 p.m. There were a number of things that he said in terms of naming the person he was speaking with in the Iranian guard there, or Iranian parliament, rather. With respect to this conflict, and I know I want to bring this all back to Turning Point USA, because we have to talk about the young generation, those in the affordability crisis. People have a hard time buying a home. They're now going to have a tough time putting gas in the tank. I filled up today, and thankfully I went to Costco, but it was like, I think I paid $3.30, $3.40 to put gas in the tank. Some places it's $4.25, $4.30. This affordability crisis now, with respect to the conflict in Iran, as much as young people may be for the mission of completing the job and get rid of the Iranian regime once and for all, it has to affect young people. And so I'm just curious to know, do you think the president's message got across to young people? Because obviously this may come up tonight. Karoline Leavitt may even address it in terms of speaking to these young people. What kind of a message does Donald Trump need to send to young people in terms of this crunch we're feeling right now in terms of affordability and housing?
That AI could wipe out 50% of white-collar entry-level jobs for college grads within 2 years. They're already facing a 6% unemployment rate for recent college graduates. They're trying to get a footing. Yep. They voted for Donald Trump in the battleground states like the unaffiliates in North Carolina came out, which are now 39% of the vote there, 8% higher than Republicans and Democrats. They are the young people. 47% of them are under 35 years old. They're trying to start families. They can't buy houses. Now, interest rates are low, $5,000 less a year for mortgages. But you have oil surpassing Brent crude for the first time today since like 2022. And now we're at $110+ per barrel. That oil has not hit U.S. shores yet. And even though we make more energy than we import, it's kind of close. I think you might see $7 a gallon for diesel, $6.50 a gallon for diesel. It's $5.50 or so today, I believe. Maybe more, maybe a little less. But, the truckers, that's going to translate to food supply chain, the supermarkets, electricity costs, other things. So they got to get a handle on this quickly. I am confident, outside of a major event, that it will come down. Will it be in time for the midterms? Maybe we're looking at May. But remember, Hegseth has to go before, along with General Dan Kane, April 29th, before the House Armed Services Committee. I'm sure they're going to want to be wrapping up operations by then. And I just wanted to let you know, there was other breaking news a little while ago that Pete Hegseth let go the Army Chief of Staff in a restructuring move.
Okay, so letting go the Army Chief of Staff, and we also got Pam Bondi out. We know Kristi Noem's been out. A lot of shakeups, a lot of things are going on. David and Benny, let's keep it right there. We'll take a quick break and be right back. And I want to continue with you in terms of the culture war, not only that Turning Point USA is taking up, but also Real America's Voice and Real America's Music. We'll be right back.
This is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour. We'll be right back on Real America's Voice.
Leaf Filter is America's #1 gutter protection system.
Yeah, because it's built right.
We didn't just take our word for it.
I didn't. I went to an install, I saw how it was built, I took it apart.
Then you know, Leaf Filter is designed to keep debris out of your gutters and water flowing. And you get a lifetime guarantee.
When it's built right, it shows. That's why it's Homes approved.
It's good to be #1.
Always.
Schedule your free gutter inspection today. Call 877-77-HOMES or visit leaffilter.com/homes.
Do you suffer in pain? Are you stiff, tense, or less active? Introducing the Easy Well Remedy Massage System, a triple fusion of therapeutic experiences. Full body vibrational therapy increases blood circulation and reduces inflammation. Infrared heat penetrates deep to reduce pain, soothe, and relax. The Ultra Shiatsu pillow with 6 heated nodes mimics a professional massage. Plus, it's detachable for deep relief anywhere you need it. Experience the true remedy for your pain and stiffness. Call now.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Paul. For 50 years, I've watched Washington betray the American people with dishonest money. Nixon's closure of the gold window made endless debt and war inevitable. Today, our middle class, our currency, and our economy are dying in real time. In my new book, Dispatches to Future Generations, I reveal how we got here. plus the solution, gold. And that's why I'm partnering with Birch Gold Group to give you a free copy of my book along with their free info kit on gold. Click below to get both right now. Inside the info kit, you'll learn how to move your IRA or 401k into physical gold. So click below to claim your free copy of my Dispatches to Future Generations and Birch Gold's info kit today.
Is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour, right here on Real America's Voice.
When the world takes its shots, some break, others rise. From Rachel Holt comes Ammunition in collaboration with Bass Records. Stand against the noise, the hate, the voices trying to tear you down. Every word thrown your way. Fuel to fight back stronger. Scan the QR code and pre-save now on iTunes. Turn pressure into power. Get ready to rise. Only on Real America's Music.
So bring it, knock me, tear me, rock me, mow me down. Load your words, take your aim and take me out. Keep on shooting and missing if it makes you feel strong, and I'll keep stocking up on ammunition. On ammunition.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of This is the Turning Point Tour, which will be coming to you in about 15 minutes at George Washington University for the spring kickoff of the This is the Turning Point Tour. There's some other dates that are coming up that I do want to tell you about. April 14th, University of Georgia. April 21st, Ohio State. April 22nd, Baylor. And April 28th, the University of Idaho. Now, what you just heard in that promo before was a new song, a new release by Real America's Music called Ammunition by Rachel Holt. I want to tell you a little bit about it, and you'll understand why, because I want to segue this in terms of the culture war that we were in the midst of and continuing to fight. Ammunition is a strong classic country track driven by powerful vocals and a clear message. Stand your ground, speak your truth, and never back down. At its core, the song is about resilience in the face of attacks, turning criticism, lies, and pressure into fuel rather than weakness. Benny, I want to come to you because I know that you love music. I know that you love country music. And I'm actually even thinking about the country tour that's going to be a festival that's coming up here pretty soon called Tortuga, where it's going to be Kenny Chesney, Riley Green, and actually Post Malone is going to be in it as well. A lot of people know that Post also does some country music. When we think about the culture war, and this is where I'm tying this in because Real America's Voice has expanded now into Real America's Music. That's kind of another derivative where they're taking up, I say they, it's we, it's all of us, are taking this culture war up on our shoulders. It's exactly the mission of what Charlie Kirk did. And I think back just a couple years ago, Benny, might have been when I met you at Turning Point USA at America Fest, when people like Brantley Gilbert were singing. And Jason Aldean's wife, Brittany Aldean, was there. And I was thinking, wow, like there really is a groundswell of especially country music artists who support Charlie's message. So speak to that, if you will, because I know that you've been heavily inundated and ingrained in the Turning Point community, the fabric. Talk about that nature of the culture war and the fact that so many musical artists are stepping up to the plate as well.
Yeah, that was my first America Fest. I was producing for Jack Posobiec at the time with Turning Point. And I remember when that got announced, I was so excited because I'm a country girl. Anybody who knows me knows that. We had Brantley Gilbert that year, Adam Doliak, Ray Lynn, and a few other people. And it's truly incredible. But both the amazing thing is I like that you mentioned country music because I really do think that's where the love of country really started when it comes to the idea of this Western America, cowboy hats and cowboy boots and pioneers. That's country music. And so to see so many artists now standing up and standing out, having American flags thrown on the stage and hanging from the stage at their concerts, like Morgan Wallen, Jason Aldean, obviously. You know, we still have Brantley Gilbert. We have Cody Johnson. So many incredible artists. And so with Real America's Voice now launching into the music sector, I think that it's needed now more than ever ever, because there are still people that are maybe a little bit scared, or maybe, you know, their music isn't really accepted at some of these larger record labels and stuff. You and I both know, you know, we love music and love that type of stuff. And so to see Real America's Music doing this and fighting on that side of it, but also fighting in the broadcast side of it, it really just goes to show how much art and music connects to people. And I think that is part of what's lacking in politics and in the conservative movement even. We have to find a way to connect with people, and music is a great way to do that. So throughout, you know, I think Turning Point really started that with having that country music at America Fest a few years ago.
Yeah, Ben, you hit the nail on the head. You know, music has a transcendent, transformational quality to it. And David, I think back, so in 2012, I guess it was, when Mitt Romney was running for president, I somehow got looped into going to D.C., and I met certain people, and I met certain senators, and one thing led to another. And next thing you know, I'm on stage at the Republican National Convention. And I distinctly remember just the onslaught of liberal media that came after me. Know nothing about me. They didn't care who I was, didn't care to get to know who I was. They just wanted to attack me because of what I was doing. I mean, needless to say, had I done this at the DNC, I would have been lauded and applauded. You know, it's a completely different situation in terms of where you decide to put your art and your talent. But when I was a kid, David, my mom took me to a Ray Charles concert. And I'm so glad I got to see him before he passed away. And I remember the movie Ray, how he's depicted by Jamie Foxx. He said, you know, the reason why I like country music is because of the stories. And that's so true. The story in a country music, it tells a complete story. And so as Betty and I were just talking about there with the different types of country artists who've been affiliated with Turning Point, and that one that we went to that had Brantley Gilbert. And then you had Jason Aldean's wife, and she was outspoken, and she was selling merch. And next thing you know, Jason Aldean himself is now speaking out about it, saying, I'm patriotic. I'm for this country. I love the American flag. This is not even old Toby Keith stuff. This is a new era. This is a new mantle being taken up. And it's something that's so interesting about what Charlie Kirk has done, has been able to bring some of these country music, I'm not going to call it out of the closet, but I mean certainly out of the conservative closet, saying we are loud, we are proud, we are unabashed about who we support and what we believe in. Your thoughts?
And they don't care where you're going to. I believe the tide has turned in that regard, you know, where years ago you couldn't get away with that in music. And the country scene, they are storytellers. And look at the performers in the All-American halftime show. Every one of them had a story of redemption, former, you know, alcohol addiction, or how, you know, they met their husband on the set of American Idol, wholesome stories, or how they finally met a man who treated them right, you know, instead of the debauchery that goes on in the mainstream music arena.
Yeah, that's so true. I completely agree with you. But I think it's so great to see country music artists emboldened, young people emboldened. And you think about Turning Point USA, and when we come back after a break, I want to talk about this too. It's not just the collegiate level. We're down at the high school level now with what they just did with Sarah Huckabee Sanders making that statement, with Erika Kirk, and even younger. I saw a middle school pilot program with Charlie Kirk, Build-A-Bears. I mean, this is amazing what this movement is doing. It's trickling down even to our youngest educational level. So let's keep that thought in mind, and we'll be right back after this break.
This is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour. We'll be right back on Real America's Voice.
Water, nature's ultimate cleaner. We drink it, we bathe in it. Think water, think steam, think clean. Now harness the power of water with the H2O X5 5-in-1 steam cleaning system.
I'm so impressed with the X5.
It's an all-in-one product. I can use it throughout my entire house.
It's cleaning, it's sanitizing. There's no chemicals in it. It's just steam.
This is unbelievable. There is no more odor.
5 minutes, I'm done. Look at that, it's amazing.
If you're ready to step into an effective, economical, and eco-safe world of cleaning, look no further than the H2O X5. Using just the power of superheated water, the X5 Super Hot Steam cleans and kills up to 99% of germs, viruses, and bacteria. You could spend over $500 to purchase the products that the X5 5-in-1 Miracle replaces. But through this special TV offer, you won't spend $400, $300, or even $200. Order your H2O X5 steam cleaning system, a $500 value, for just 4 easy payments of $43. You'll get the X5 steam mop with microfiber pad, the carpet glider, the handheld scrubber, the window glass and mirror attachment, and the garment and upholstery bonnet. It's a complete 10-piece system, all this for just 4 easy payments of $43. But it gets even better. Order now and we'll upgrade your X5 package. We'll add a 6th mode with a dusting and polishing wand. Valued at over $30, this extra bonus attachment makes your H2O X5 the H2O X6. That means your 10-piece system becomes a 12-piece system at no extra cost to you. If after 30 days you're not absolutely delighted, send it back for a full refund of the purchase price. Don't wait. Now's your chance to own the X5 for just 4 easy payments, and we'll make the first payment for you. You get the X5 incredible 5-in-1 lightweight, powerful 12-piece steam cleaning system, a $500 value, all for just 3 easy payments of $43. This offer can't last forever, so call or click right now.
This is America, and this is the Turning Point Tour, right here on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back to This is the Turning Point Tour and our coverage here at Real America's Voice. In just about 6 minutes, the program will be getting underway at George Washington University for the spring tour of the This is the Turning Point Tour. There are a number of other stops that are coming up, University of Georgia, Ohio State, Baylor, and the University of Idaho. We still have David Zier and Benny Harmony on the ground, although I don't think we have David at the moment. So, Benny, I want to go to you simply because Karoline Leavitt will be speaking tonight in addition to Erika Kirk and Jack Posobiec. And, of course, with you being in D.C. and having such close access to the White House, to members of Congress, and your reporting, talk to me a little bit and give our viewers an inside look at what Karoline Leavitt is like. This has been an extremely transparent administration, perhaps more transparent than anybody else. And I think for those young people, young collegiate members, but especially females like yourself, even if you could take yourself back to the college era, and looking up to a Karoline Leavitt and saying, that could be me one day. Maybe that's a career I could be inspired to. So talk a little bit about what it's been like in the room with Karoline and kind of the inspiration she leads with people that may be in the audience today at this event.
Yeah, well, Bo, I can somewhat speak on personal, but I can definitely speak on professional. You know, when I first started at the White House, Karoline Leavitt, she welcomed me into her office in the West Wing. We sat down by the fireplace and we had a long discussion. She asked me, you know, about my journey, how I got to where I am, how the White House could better assist us, and really showed interest in helping and showed interest in truth and transparency, like you said. Now, you know, we have seen that the Karoline has always had a very open door policy. Now, some of the press definitely have taken advantage of that, so they had to stop doing that really. But it is very transparent because even when you walk into the briefing room and then you go into this thing called lower press, all the girls are incredible. They will answer any question that you have. They will answer any email that you have. And so it just goes to show consistently what Trump is saying and what Karoline is saying about the access, about the transparency. It's true. Now, you know, professionally, I think for a young woman, she is an incredible role model, not just because of the strides she's making at being the youngest press secretary, but her faith, her Christianity. She doesn't hide it. She doesn't shy away. She wears her cross and she speaks it very proudly. And so I think all women should really look up to her in a way of not just personal, but professional and how she lives her life. Now, Bo, I'm going to throw myself under the bus, and Karoline might laugh at me, but I used to have Karoline Leavitt as a screensaver on my phone. So she is making an impact on young women across the country. So Karoline, if you're seeing this, I promise I'm not weird, but she's just very inspirational, and that's what I told her when I met her.
No, but that's exactly the story that people need to hear. And to make this really, really full circle, because I know that one of the ways that you even came to Real America's Voice is because of something that happened to you at a prior employment. And why don't you just walk viewers through that one more time to explain that it really was Charlie and Turning Point that caused this, well, let's be honest, a turning point in your life and your career.
Wow. When you put it like that, Bo, it truly was a turning point. I was at an ABC affiliate in Springfield, Illinois, and I was about a year in on my contract, on a 2-year contract, and Charlie died when that day I was at work, and I decided that I was going to go on air and make a tribute. It was a few days later. I felt something very deep inside of me. I believe it was the Holy Spirit. I felt called to say something. I had people messaging me on Facebook, why isn't your station mentioning that Charlie was was died. Well, my news director told me he was just a podcaster and that we weren't gonna deal with it. We'll let the National handle that. And I took it upon myself, and many called it the wrong decision. I got ousted very quickly. They took me off air. I did a tribute. It was a very short tribute, non-political, and just talked about Charlie's life and what he meant to me. And they suspended me, so then I resigned. And I really did think my life was over, Bo. But like you said, it truly was a turning point. I got on the phone with Parker and Rob, and I landed at Real America's Voice. And now I'm here with Erika and Karoline, and here in Washington, D.C., getting to cover the same thing that Charlie fought for. And I truly believe this is God. That's all. That's truly the only way I can describe it, Bo.
Without a doubt. And I think it's so important for people to hear this, because you have to look at, there's kind of a next man up philosophy. That's what we say in sports. But at the same time, it's like, you have to see people do things and take steps of courage to understand that you're that next man or woman up in this case. You're at a local channel in Springfield, Illinois, and then now you are a national correspondent for Real America's Voice. We don't even know what's next for you or for me. We don't know, as my mom likes to say, we don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future, which I think is an important part of the story here. So I just take it full circle and look at what Charlie Kirk has done, and we talk about his legacy and that moment of what I think was unity and renewal and restoration at his funeral, which you shouldn't need a funeral to do that, if we're being honest. But it took that, and you look at the legacy and the continued tour stops that are happening, and I just say that there's a courage that he's inspiring. I hear people, this happened at CPAC, I hear it at Turning Point USA, people say, how is it that you have the courage to speak out and do this? Because I couldn't do that. I say, well, it starts with you. I mean, you have to find it. You have to find the muster of courage, because if it's not you, then who? Someone's got to do it. You took a great professional risk by making a tribute to a mentor of yours, and you got canned for it, but then look what was around the corner. As God closed one door, another one opened. And that's what I mean by this full circle picture of the culture war. It's partly what Charlie has started, but it's also the mantle that everyone has to take up. And that's why I say, like, you look at college campuses, a new Club America at high schools, that's the new initiative. And then the younger one, when I was at Moms for Liberty, it was a middle school. And so I thank you, Benny, for what you've done. I appreciate and admire your courage. I know that right now we're going to go to the national anthem that's being performed right there at Lisner Auditorium at George Washington University. So let's go ahead and kick off this coverage of This Is the Turning Point Tour.
By the dawn's early light, what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please welcome to the stage Joshua Ames.
Yeah, let's go. This is the last second edition tonight, and Christ is Lord. Am I right? He is. I've just recently been getting more and more involved with TPUSA, and the reason is because the last 2 years of Charlie Kirk's life, I watched him become more and more convinced and convicted that Jesus Christ must be the foundation of our politics. And we see it. That's right. Amen. Amen. And if you don't believe that, you're wrong, okay? You're just wrong. I have encountered so many young people over the last year of going on campus. And I'll encounter some of these guys, and they've got all the right-based, super-based, red pill, right-wing convictions, all these political convictions. But so many of them don't know why they're right. They don't know why. The reason why you're right in your base red pill convictions is not because you're owning the libs, okay? That's easy. It's not because you're upsetting the feminists. That anybody could do that. That is incredibly easy, okay? The reason that you're right with these base red pill, right-wing convictions is because most of them, generally speaking, are rooted and grounded in something eternal. And if you're not rooting your political convictions in something eternal, namely the Word of God, then you're not standing on anything. You are on quicksand, okay? And that's why I am so honored to be a part of this movement. Because I watched as Charlie Kirk made it a point to bring the Word of God to bear, to bring his faith to bear in politics and in culture. We are in the fight of our lives. We are in the fight of our lives right now. This is life or death. This is the political struggle that we are in is life or death. We don't have time to waste. We don't have time to waste getting in petty little arguments about this or that. We must be rooting and grounding every single thing that we believe in something eternal. All right, that's how you know. That's why I'm so confident. I get to know that I'm right. When I would do these, change my mind tabling events, I go in with confidence, not because I'm so smart. I'm not really that smart, in case you can't tell. I know a few things. I don't know how I feel about you clapping about that last night. Well, I'll take it. Woo! I'm going to pretend you're clapping for Jesus, okay? Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Psalm 2 says, "Why do the heathen nations vainly rage against our God's Messiah?" All right? Jesus Christ is Lord of all. He is Lord of this country. He is Lord of this state. He is Lord of all, everything. There is not a single square inch of the entirety of all of human existence over which Christ, who is sovereign over all, does not cry, "Mine." And that must be the foundation of our politics. Am I right? Amen. Jesus Christ is Lord. And that's all I got for you today, guys.
Please welcome Jack Posobiec.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having us here at George Washington University for Turning Point USA. And I don't know, a little bit of a question. Do we have any patriots in the audience tonight? Do we have any moms and dads or future moms and dads in the audience tonight? And I'm just saying, if you're single, look to your left, look to your right. This is a good spot. I'm just saying, hey, what? I kid you not. Wow, I just started a thing, didn't I? Okay. I kid you not, and she's actually here tonight, and believe it or not, and we'll bring her out in a minute, but I actually met my wife at a Bible study. Believe it or not, I really did. It's 100% true. People are like, "Poso, you're making it up." No, seriously, I met her at a Bible study, and it was 11 years ago, and I think that if you meet someone and you do so where your values are in alignment, where the big picture is in alignment, you're going to disagree in relationships. I didn't even think I was going to talk about this tonight, but I just am. And you're going to have those moments, and it's ups and downs, it's all of it. But if you agree on the big picture things, if you agree on conservatism versus liberalism, if you agree in growing up as a society, if you agree on having children, growing up as a family and making a family together, then I guarantee you that your marriage will be strong, it will be successful, and it will, in fact, be God blessed. I 100% believe that. And I have faith in all of that. And many years ago, I came up with this phrase, actually, and they put it on T-shirts and stuff, and it was, be a rebel, start a family. Be a rebel, start a family. Charlie Kirk used to say, get married, have kids. Folks, can we give it up for a second for our good friend and the man who is still the leader in so many spiritual ways of Turning Point USA, Charles James Kirk. And I know that you guys are so excited, and I'm excited to hear from Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt in just a few minutes. By the way, I saw Karoline backstage. She was on the phone. I think she was dealing with some of the fake news media out there. And let me tell you, she wins every single time. They've never been able to get one past her. And she's going to be out here in just a few moments and joined in these two chairs behind me by the new CEO of Turning Point USA, Mrs. Erika Kirk. Who's ready for Erika tonight? And Erika has just done such an incredible job. And when we got the news about what happened to Charlie when he was murdered, and I always say it that way, by the way. I always say Charlie was murdered or assassinated or stripped from us or stolen from us, because don't let them underplay that for 1 minute. Don't let the media, don't let the left, don't let them downplay what happened. Charlie Kirk was the man that would come to campuses just like this one right here, and he would sit down in the quad, he would sit down at a table, and he said, let's have a conversation. He would say, let's talk. He would say, let's have a debate. Because what could be more important than that? Going through a debate, having that freedom of speech, having that exchange of ideas. Whether you agree, you disagree, you hash it out, but you do so with respect for one another. That is what Charlie Kirk stood for. Charlie Kirk was the happy warrior. That is why they came after Charlie, because they could not out-debate him. They could not outsmart him. That is the legacy of Charlie Kirk, and that is why every single one of you is in this crowd tonight. And God bless you for having the courage to step up and say that you will continue the legacy, that you will continue the fight of Charlie Kirk. It's not about any of us. It is about each and every one of you. It's true. And I do want to tell you something, because, and we could talk about what happened 6 months ago. We could talk about what happened in 2024. But did you know that long before all that, long before all of us, long before even the United States of America was ever founded, that 2,000 years ago, a king walked the earth. A king walked among us. A king came down from heaven. Not a politician, not a warlord, but the Son of God himself, who turned to mortal form and walked among us. And that king did not come with a sword. That king did not come with a political manifesto. He came with the truth, the raw, unfiltered, unvarnished, eternal, divine truth. That whosoever believes in him will achieve eternal life. And what did this world do? The elites, the bureaucrats, the mob of his time, we know. They spit in his face. They gave him a crown. Our king wore a crown of thorns, and they nailed him to a cross, and they thought that they had won. Satan thought that he had won. They thought that they had buried the light. They thought they had buried the way. They thought they had buried the truth. But Christ himself proved them wrong. He proved them wrong because on the third day, he rolled back the stone of the tomb. The king rose and the gates of hell trembled after Christ himself stormed them. And that is the story they don't want you to hear, because I'm not talking, we know what Sunday is. And yes, we're going to have a great time. And for those of you with kids, you're going to have Easter eggs, and you're going to have Easter baskets. And yes, even the Easter bunny. But folks, the real Easter is about rebellion. It is about the ultimate red pill. It is about Christ the King kicking over the tables of the money changers in the temple, staring down the Pharisees, breaking the chains of death himself, and a reminder that no empire, no ideology, no demon, no lie, not even Satan himself can stand up against the King of Kings. And look, I don't know if you guys expected me to be political tonight. But I was thinking of being a little bit more theological. I hope you guys don't mind. Would that be all right with you? Would that be all right with you guys if I broke it down a little bit on the religion side? Because folks, today is Holy Thursday, and tomorrow is Good Friday, the most solemn day of the year, the day that Christ sacrificed everything for us. Because God asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, but he stopped at the last moment. He said, no, I see you're willing, but no, I'm not going to make you do that. And he asked him to take a lamb in his stead of his son, because I will not ask my follower to do that. But what did God do as a father? He sacrificed his own son for every single one of us, every single one of you, every single generation that has come before, every single generation that has gone beyond, because that is a father's love. And it takes a Good Friday to achieve an Easter Sunday. When you go through the pit of hell itself, when you are faced with the gates of hell itself, understand that when God is on your side, you will rise again. Christ rose again, because it's not just a celebration, it's about picking sides. Are you on the side of the king, or are you on the side of the cursed? And you look around at the world, we see the cursed, don't we? You see these people, they're restless, they're angry, and they're not hiding anymore. We know this. We saw the No Kings protest this weekend, and oh my gosh, right? They're out there, they're in the streets, they're in boardrooms, they're in the algorithms. They're the ones telling you that truth can be relative and good is evil, and the cross, that's just some symbol, because we know what they're doing. They're building their own kingdom, a soulless machine where they want you to be nothing but a cog. They want you to be a consumer. They want you to kneel. They want you to bow down, but not to the Savior, not to the King, not to Christ, not to God, to their dogma. Cancer culture, woke ideology, racial tensions, gender studies, bow down to all that. But no, we know about that temptation. That's the serpent. That's the enemy. The same one as it always was. Because this is cultural, and it is political, and it is all of those things. But ultimately, this is a spiritual war that we are in, and it has always been a spiritual war from the moment the serpent slithered into the garden. And they've got their megaphones, but guess what? Now we've got ours. Now we've got Turning Point USA. Now we've got Christ the King. And I'll tell you right now, the King has already won. And remember that and tattoo it to your hearts. The King has already won. And you know what'll happen? You go out there, they'll mock you, they'll slander you, they'll curse you. And you saw what they did to Charlie. You saw what they did. But ultimately, Easter Sunday comes for all. Because the cross defeated the grave. The cross defeated the tomb. God defeated the tomb. The King is risen and the cursed are on notice. So choose your side. Arm yourself with the truth, with the sword of St. Michael, and we will take back. We will take it all back, the spiritual war. So let's take back the earth as well. One soul, one battle, one victory at a time, for he is risen. And this Sunday, we will all be able to proclaim in one loud voice together, and I hope we will, that he is risen and his light will wash over the earth, not just for this generation and every generation to come. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. And I came out here and I was talking about family, and I was thinking about Charlie, and I was thinking about his family, and every single moment that was taken from them, that was ripped from them, and all the generations to come, because I knew how much Charlie loved Erika and his children. I knew that he lived everything for them. And if you could just join me now in a moment of silence and prayer for Charlie and for his family. Just real quick, I'm not going to take a ton of time, but let's remember that and never, ever let them forget what was taken, because a debt is owed. A debt is owed to his wife and to those children for every single moment that was stolen from their lives. A debt is owed. And because we remember family, I wanted to bring out some people that are very close to me, talking about the next generation, talking about what the goal is in life, talking about the goodness in life. Come on, guys, don't be shy. I want to talk to you and introduce you to my son, Jack. He's right here. To my son, AJ, his little brother, and their beautiful wife, Tanya, who, yes, and fact check me, where did we meet?
Bible study. All
right, we met at Bible study. Boys, are you, let me ask you something. Let's come up here a little bit. Let's come up here a little bit so they can see you. You're hiding a little bit. I know we're just a little bit over time. It'll be okay. Boys, what is Sunday?
Easter.
And what happened on Easter?
Jesus rose from the dead.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And AJ, are you ready for Easter?
Yeah.
He's ready for Easter. We're all ready for Easter. And that is what it's all about. Go out there and continue to spread the good news. Spread the news far and wide. That's what Charlie stood for. That was Charlie's animating voice. That's what was in his heart. He is risen. God bless. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Please welcome Chapter President Ryan Van Slingerland.
Good evening, GW. How are we doing tonight, guys? Yeah. That's what I like to hear. Seriously, take a second, look around this room, look around the beautiful Lisner Auditorium. It's just incredible. And Jack was incredible. Everyone's been incredible. All of you have been incredible. Having you all here today is incredible. The response to this event has been completely unreal. From the energy, the turnout, the momentum leading up to tonight. It really says something important. People on this campus are paying attention, and they care, and that's what matters most. It's an honor to welcome all of you here to the very first tour stop of the This is the Turning Point tour right here at George Washington University in the heart of our nation's capital. Before we begin, I want to set one expectation for tonight. GW is committed to free expression and free inquiry. That means every idea, every perspective, and every viewpoint, it deserves to be heard, openly and without interruption. And we take that seriously here. At the same time, we expect the same level of respect from everyone in this room. And if anyone chooses to disrupt this event, they will unfortunately be asked to leave and may be referred to the appropriate university channels for further action. Because guys, tonight we're here for conversation, we're here for dialogue, and we're here for the open exchange that America was built on. Let's keep it that way. I'd also like to recognize some very important people tonight that this night would not be possible without. First off, to GWPD and local law enforcement, thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for keeping us safe, not just tonight, but every single day. Truly. And a huge thank you to the entire Turning Point team. Sarah, Haria, Macy, Michaela, all of our student volunteers out there in the crowd, and everyone behind the scenes as well, for helping bring this event to life. Let's give them another round of applause, folks. Now, tonight, it's more than an event. It's about something bigger than all of us. It's about having the courage to think for yourself, to speak freely, and to stand firm in what you believe in, even when it's uncomfortable. Because let's be honest, on a college campus, especially these days, that's not exactly a reality we sometimes have. It's not always easy. There's pressure, there's noise, there's a constant push to just go along and not rock the boat and to stay quiet. But real leadership, real character, and real courage, it comes from doing the opposite. It comes from stepping up. It comes from having faith. It comes from just picking up that mic. And that's what this movement's about. That is what Turning Point USA is about. And that's what Charlie Kirk not only fought for, but died for. And that is why this night matters so much. I never had the honor of meeting Charlie. He meant a tremendous deal to many people. But to me, Charlie was a champion, not just of free speech, but of the American spirit, like no other. For years, I dreamed of bringing Charlie to this campus, doing something similar to what we're doing right now. And for just bringing Charlie's voice here and to make that difference right here in the heart of America. And I thought after Charlie was assassinated, how would it even be possible to keep that vision alive? How would it be possible to fill this room today? But then I realized it wasn't true, because Charlie's voice can and will still be brought to this campus. It'll be brought to every other campus across America because of each and every one of you. It's now up to all of us to carry that torch. And I won't lie, there will be times when the struggle seems impossible, when it seems too challenging, when it seems too tough. But folks, I know this already. There's times where things might seem lonely, unsure, uncertainty, dwarfed by the scale of an evil that we can't even imagine. But remember this, freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. And together as one, we are stronger. So if you're sitting here tonight and thinking, this looks great, I want to be a part of this. Oh, these guys on the stage look cool. You know what? Let's join them. Well, guess what? And if you want to make an impact, know this. We want you with us. The chapter here at GW, we're building something real on this campus for people who are engaged, who are thinking, who actually care about what's going on, not just here in our little GW bubble, but across America, around the world. Because it's not just politics. It's about upholding what American values, it's about upholding the American values this country was built on and building a society where people can feel that they can speak freely, ask questions, challenge ideas without being held or shut down for it. And again, that's what we're building here tonight. And tonight is proof that this is working. All of you sitting here in the crowd tonight, that's proof of that. Quick but important. Take 30 seconds tonight to check your voter registration with the flyer that was handed to you when you walked in the door. Because if you care about the future, it's up to all of us, and you have to show up when it counts. And where are all the ladies in the room tonight? Because Turning Point USA's Women's Leadership Summit is happening in San Antonio, Texas, June 5th through 7th. And I'm told it's going to be a great time. Obviously, I can't go, not a girl, but for all the girls in the room, I recommend going. And speaking of that, make sure you stop by the TPUSA table near the entrance if you haven't already. Meet the team, get plugged in, take that next step, or head to tpusastudents.com if, you're a little lazy, but that's okay. But get involved. That's the point. All right. Now, before we get started, I would love everyone to indulge me for just a few more seconds. Let's have a little fun with this. If you have a rally sign on your chair, which I know all of you do since our wonderful volunteers put them there, and I helped out as well. Raise that nice and high. And if you don't have a sign for whatever strange reason, I need you to give me the loudest cheer for Charlie that you've got. There's a camera team, so yeah, right there. So, on 3, everyone give me your loudest cheer for Charlie. 1, 2, 3. Wow. I got chills from that. I can't lie. I got chills from that. Great job. See, that's the GW spirit I know and love to see. That is what I'm talking about. Thank you guys all for being here tonight at George Washington University. Let's make some noise. Let's get this thing started. God bless all of you, and God bless the United States of America.
My name is Charlie Kirk, and I love America.
Why are you here?
Because I love talking with people I disagree with.
What have you done for your country?
Started an organization that's now in 1,000+ campuses to save the greatest culture and country ever to exist. I go around universities and have challenging conversations because that's what is so important to our country, to find our disagreements respectfully. I love talking to people I disagree with. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens.
I don't agree with you on a lot of stuff, but I really respect, and I think you don't agree with me on a lot of stuff, but I really respect that you'll have a dialogue. How do you think we get more people that can argue like that on both sides of the aisle?
I think this event is a great example of it, right? I think that this event is, we need to have differing opinions. We need to have people that don't share the same worldview and see which one is better and try to find common bond. You should have your own discussions like this every day. You should try to model it and try to have, back and forth, and that's what makes the country strong and great. Civil dialogue.
Political education was not just through the rise of President Trump, but also the rise of Charlie Kirk. Yep. Watching Charlie from a distance was so inspiring to me as a young conservative woman. I got to know him personally when I decided to run for Congress, and he was a tremendous supporter and friend.
Your generation is living at a crossroads. You are living in one of the most defining moments in American history, and we are all witnessing in real time the battle that is raging for the soul of your generation.
Please welcome White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt and CEO and Chair of TPUSA, Erika Kirk.
Hello. This is a great turnout.
Hello, GW.
This is awesome. So we were talking backstage for a little bit. You don't look pregnant.
I feel it, girl.
Yeah.
9 months pregnant today.
9
Thank
months.
you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So
let's hope that I don't have to go to GW Hospital tonight.
Right. I hope so too. We were reminiscing backstage of how when I was pregnant, I was like 190 some pounds. And Charlie kept bringing me, he would be like, you want a hot fudge sundae tonight, don't you? And I was like, I actually do. He's like, I'll come back, I'll go get one. And he just kept bringing all these different treats. Every night he'd come home from work. And that's how I was very fat and happy when I was pregnant. And you look amazing.
That's what husbands are for during
Right.
pregnancy. And there has been no shortage of ice cream in our house either. So
they live vicariously through it all. So share with us how you met Charlie. I love hearing these stories of how people, their favorite memory or how they met him or what they carry with them of Charlie.
Yeah. So I was first introduced to Charlie, as you know, during my congressional campaign in 2022. I ran for Congress up in New Hampshire, which is my home state. We have some Granite Staters. Hi, guys. The first in the nation primary state. That's how I was introduced to politics. I came to DC. I worked in President Trump's White House in the first term, started as an intern. And then, unfortunately, Joe Biden was installed as president of the United States. So I had to choose a different job. And I went over to Capitol Hill, and I was a communications director for former Congresswoman, soon to be former Elise Stefanik. And she actually really encouraged and inspired me to run for office. So I said, heck yeah, let's do it. And I launched my congressional campaign. And Charlie, Kirk, and Turning Point USA were the only organization in the political world that supported me. The entire establishment in the city were with my opponent in the primary, but I think Charlie loved that I was a young person who was stepping up to the plate, and he and Tyler reached out, flew me out to Arizona, met them at the headquarters, and then they said, we're on board fully, and they truly were throughout the entire primary. We met at the investor retreat in Arizona. They introduced me to all of these MAGA Patriot donors who contributed to my campaign. And I'll never forget it because Charlie gave me his word that he would support me, and he did all the way through, not just through that congressional run in the primary, and then in the general election when I did lose to the Democrat candidate. But God closed that door but opened another, which led me now to the White House podium. And Charlie was one of the first people the night that President Trump appointed me to this role that I'm in to congratulate me and say how proud he was. So I'll never forget that, and he's amazing.
How many of you that are students want to run for office one day? By a raise of hands.
Some hands. Don't be shy. We need more.
Yes. So my question is for these individuals and even others too, what is the process of that? Like, do you find an application? What was the stepping stone for you for all of it? I just want bare bone basics starting from day one and onward.
Yeah. It's not an easy process. Building a campaign is like building a business. You really have to start from the ground up. I was grateful to have worked for a congresswoman who was able to give me some guidance and sort of point me in the right direction. But you have to hire staff. You have to really depend on volunteers. And really, the very first campaign event that I did in New Hampshire, my dad brought me to it. He was my driver and my body man and my campaign manager that day. And we just showed up to a local Republican committee event in New Hampshire, and I walked in and said, hey, I'm Karoline Leavitt. I was born and raised here. I worked in the Trump White House. I'm back home. I want to run for Congress. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy. But one event led to the next. And that's what running for office really is. That's what public service really is. It's gritty, hard work. Our campaign team knocked on more than 70,000 doors in that race, just in the primary alone. all across New Hampshire, all across the districts, just earning one vote at a time. You have to be gritty and just put together a team, and I was grateful to have a lot of support from everyday patriots in New Hampshire who joined the fight with us, and then support from people like Charlie at the national level that really helped amplify the campaign, and it sort of just snowballed into this amazing experience, which again, didn't fully work out. I'm obviously not a member of Congress now, but I think this job is frankly a lot more fun. So
I totally agree. So what was the process like to be the White House press secretary? Because I remember when Charlie was in Palm Beach when they were all putting together the admin. He loved it because it was as if his moment to be a football coach, of just quarterbacking who's going to go where in the admin. So what was the process like for you? Did you have people calling you? Did you have people throwing your name into the mix? And then did you just wake up one day and see a news article about it? What was the process?
So there really wasn't a process. So I worked as the national press secretary on the president's campaign. And I fell into that role after the loss of my congressional race. So that's a piece of advice I would give to the young people here. When a door closes, don't worry, because a new one is opening, and it's going to lead you to exactly where you need to be. So just take advantage of every opportunity in the moment and know that God has a plan, and He's going to forge your steps ahead and get you to where you want to go. Thank you. It's just the truth. And so I was running for Congress, lost the race, got a call from a friend who was working for President Trump's campaign that he had just launched in November 2022, and said, hey, the super PAC for President Trump, MAGA Inc., is looking for a spokeswoman. Do you want to come join? And I said, heck yeah. So I joined the super PAC as his spokeswoman, and then months later, when the campaign really started to rev up, Susie Wiles called and offered me the job as the campaign spokesperson, which I took willingly and wholeheartedly. She's my boss to this day, and she is amazing. And so I served with the president throughout the whole campaign, all of the trials, literally and figuratively speaking, the trials in courtrooms and rallies all around the country. And then he won the election, as you know well, Erika, and your husband played a huge role in that. And so after we won and we knew we were going to the White House, I thought, I hope I'll get a job. I don't know if I will. The president made a couple funny comments to me on the campaign, like, if we win, you're coming with me, right? And I said, of course I will, sir. And then about a week after the election, we were on the phone about something, the president and me, just chit-chatting. And it was the most anticlimactic thing ever. He goes, oh, by the way, you're going to be the White House press secretary, right? And I said, oh, okay. And he said, so about that other thing, what do you think about that? What should we do? What should we say? And that was it. That's how I got the job. So there was no pomp and circumstance. He just said it, and here we are. True Donald Trump fashion.
What do you feel is the best thing about working for the Trump administration and the White House currently?
There's so many things I love about this job. For me, working with the press, as we like to call it, the fake news media, and they really are the fake news media. I see some cameras back there. I don't know if we welcomed anyone from the fake news. I'd be happy to take their questions if we did. But for me, the best part of the job is working for a president who is so transparent. Like, what you guys hear from President Trump and see from him on social media and on TV is exactly what we hear and see from him behind the scenes. Let me just assure you.
He's very real.
He is very real. He keeps it real. You saw it yesterday at the Easter lunch.
I saw it yesterday on full display. Yes.
Like, what you see is what you get. He is so authentic, which for me as his spokesperson makes my job easy, because when I walk in there and I say, sir, this story is coming out. How do you feel? What's the truth? What do you want me to say? He just lays it on the table. There's no guessing. There's no questioning. There's no spin. It's just, it is what it is with him. And so as his spokeswoman, I'm very grateful for that, because I saw my predecessor in this role have a bit of a hard time, I think. And I think it's because she wasn't able to communicate with her boss in a very open and transparent way. And so the president's accessibility and transparency, not just to me and the rest of the West Wing staff, but to you, the American people, and to the news media, is so refreshing. And everything he says is exactly how he feels. There's no guessing. And he's honest and authentic about how he believes, and it makes my job much easier. And that's one of the things I love most about the job. Also, we have never know what you're going to get when you walk into the White House these days. Every day is an adventure, for sure.
Is there anything that keeps you up at night with this job?
The fact that my boss is up all night and probably going to call at any hour.
Because he sleeps very, very little.
Very little.
Yeah.
Like maybe 4 hours a night. It's crazy. I'm a third his age and I can't keep up. I tell him that all the time. I think probably what keeps me up at night is I have a tendency not to sleep as well in this job because there's just so much going on all the time. Breaking news, you never know what you're going to get when you wake up, whether it's the middle of the night or first thing in the morning. And I have all of the fake news media apps on my phone, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and I'll make the mistake of being awake at 3 a.m. and reading through some of the stories, and then my brain's going.
Awake.
Yeah.
You're awake. Your adrenaline's
going. I can't go back, yeah.
No.
My adrenaline's going, and my team knows. If you ask anyone who works for me, I see my assistant in the front row, she's smirking, because they'll wake up to the group chat, and I send texts between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. every night. And I'm like, we need to call this reporter in the morning. This is not true. We need to correct this, put this statement in this story. So it's just constant. It's a 24/7 news cycle we live in, and we're on the front lines of that at the White House every day.
Do you feel that's the most challenging aspect of your job, is just trying to keep up with the news cycle at times?
For sure. It's never ending. After this event, I'll go look at my phone and probably have 40 texts, 10 missed calls, all on different topics that I'll have to go sort through and figure out and call Secretary Rubio or call Secretary Hegseth and try to get to the bottom of what's about to be reported and make sure that it's factual. So it's a never-ending process and challenge that we have with the media today, and it's just the digital age that we live in. It's the way that it is.
Is there anything that you feel needs to be either better explained, or because here's the thing, is that we are not in all of the meetings. We're not in all of the briefing sessions. We don't really fully see, as the average American, what is going on behind the scenes in closed doors. So we only hear what the media tells us. Is there anything that students or just average American citizen should look at differently or pay attention to differently, or even shift their perspective on something a little bit more differently?
Well, you said something, Erika, that's really important, which is everyday Americans, you do depend on the news sources that you read to give you the information that you need to make decisions in your life. Economic news, political news, obviously it informs the electorate, it informs how people vote. And we have, unfortunately, an overwhelmingly biased and liberal media in this country. If you look at, I love the Media Busters organization. They do surveys week to week about the coverage on the cable channels in this country and how they're approaching their stories and their coverage of President Trump. And it is always in the 90s, 90% or more negative against the president and our policies. And you have to imagine the vast majority of the country is consuming that. And the president says it all the time, it's miraculous that he won nearly 80 million votes in the last election. It shows that people like you, many of the people in this room with those MAGA hats on, you see through the fake news and you really search for the truth. And I see that firsthand every day. The process that the fake news goes through to write stories, it's really just such a low level of journalistic integrity. I mean, they will find anyone and call them a source familiar with the White House, and then they'll just write what that person said, like it's the truth, like it's actually happening in our meetings, like it's actually being said behind closed doors. And I read so many stories every day that are just completely baseless. Things that were allegedly said that never were said. And sometimes they don't even come to the White House for comment. That's the craziest part, and that's my biggest pet peeve. It's like,
mine too.
You're writing this story with all these sources that you claim know what they're talking about, and you didn't even check with the people who were actually there, who will dispute it or at least give you the accurate information. And we deal with this. Our team at the White House receives about 200 to 300 press inquiries a day from outlets across the country and the world. And every single one that comes in usually has a biased perspective that we have to sort through and run down the facts. And you can imagine it's a very arduous process. So again, a piece of advice, do not believe everything you read. If you showed up willingly to this event tonight, you probably already don't, which is why you're a supporter of Turning Point and all the great work that Charlie did and Erika continues to do, because you want truth in our media landscape today, and we need more of it.
And how do you navigate knowing what's true and what's not? Because what I've been noticing is that a lot of these, especially independent journalists, they pedestal their sources above the actual individual or organization that they're talking about. How can students be able to delineate what is true, what is not? Is there a filter that you run news through yourself where you're like, pause, let's really think about this and break it down?
There unfortunately isn't just an easy solution to know what's factual and what's true. The best advice I could give is to take everything you read with a grain of salt. Nothing you really see, don't take it as gospel until you look at other places. You know, just because one influencer says something online based on one source doesn't mean it's real. And that is true of, you know, the legacy outlets in this country, the New York Times, Washington Post. I read it all. I mean, that's how I start my day every day. I read the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, front to back. It pains me, but I need to know what they're saying, right? Because that really drives the news cycle of the day that we have to combat. But then also on, online engagement and what's happening on X and in other places in the digital world is important to understand, because oftentimes, as you know, what starts on X as a rumor then becomes a legacy media narrative. So you have to kind of get ahead of those things before they really spiral into something that's just a complete fallacy. So my advice would be to encourage everyone in this room to try to be the most well-read person in every room that you're in. That was a piece of advice one of my predecessors, Dana Perino, gave to me before I took this job. She said, you always want to be the most well-read person in the room. And I try to be every day. But Donald Trump always is. That man does not miss a story, let me tell you. He's always reading the papers and watching the TV. He doesn't miss anything anyone says in the whole world. I don't know how he does it and consumes it all. And it's a lot. And, you guys are busy, right? You're students, you're working, you're in school, you want to have fun, you want to live lives. You can't consume every piece of news. But before you get really hot and bothered about something, or maybe angry, or even really encouraged by something, check other sources and then use your best judgment to sort of balance what the truth is. And unfortunately, that's just the way it has to be done.
And when you have that heavy intake of the press and you're reading all the stories, like you said, as a Christian, how do you guard your heart and mind when you read all of these from all walks of life, all different media types? How do you guard your mind and your heart from letting it penetrate and just really upset you or throw your whole day or just mess with even the internal narrative that you guys have in the admin?
Through prayer and faith. It's the only way to just cover yourself in prayer and in faith. And, faith gives you such perspective that even the worst story or the worst news cycle is just a moment. And it's passing. This too shall pass. I think seen videos, my team and I always pray before every briefing. That's a crucial step in our process as a team to prepare before we go out into the briefing room, into the lion's den, and go up against, journalists who obviously are trying to trip me up. That's the nature of their questioning. And some of them, not all of them. Some of them are good people and I think really want honest, factual answers. Not all. But it's through prayer and just faith that there's something so much bigger than what we're doing in this moment and on this day. But it's very easy to feel drowned by it all because it's heavy stuff we're dealing with. And it's policies that are impacting our country and the world. And so there are days that are harder than others, but I think without faith, you couldn't do it.
And when I last saw you, I was so excited to hear, because on the way out, you had shared with me that your team specifically started a Bible study. Are there other, that to me makes my heart so happy to know that that is happening within the White House. Are there other groups within the admin that after Charlie, everything happened on 9/10, are there other groups within the admin that also have started their own little Bible study groups?
Members of the cabinet have started Bible studies. One of the most beautiful moments I've witnessed in this job was prior to the cameras coming into a cabinet meeting in the cabinet room. The president always sort of has private conversation with the cabinet and checks in and asks them, how's everyone doing? Is there anything you need from me? And it's sort of that private moment before the cameras roll in. You guys have seen these advertised 3-hour-long cabinet meetings that we hold about once or twice a month. But they do have that private talk. And there was a day in which Secretary Turner prompted a prayer over the president and over the rest of the cabinet. And I had the honor of just standing in the corner of the room for when the president wanted the media to come in and witness that moment with the president of the United States, the vice president of the United States, and the entire cabinet with their heads bowed in that beautiful cabinet room praying together. And I took a video of it on my phone, and I will save it forever because it was the most powerful people in our country and the most powerful man in the world humbling themselves and just praying over each other for protection and safety and continued wisdom. And that was one of the best moments I've witnessed. But we have started a Bible study. It is all women. Men are welcome too if they want. Robert, I see you over there. He's my colleague. He can come if he wants. White House male staff are welcome, but it's been all ladies thus far. And it's been wonderful. Tuesday morning, 7:45 in the Roosevelt Room. And a colleague of mine, Dr. Heidi Overton, she's a big mind in the Maha movement. She's incredibly brilliant, and she leads the study. And it's all young women that are working in the West Wing and just need that moment of prayer before we get started with our very busy days.
I love that. So, including that, what is so far your favorite memory in this role?
That's a hard question.
I know there's so many. You can name a few. You don't have to name just one.
I think the best memories I've had thus far are those with my family, with my husband and our baby, Nico, who's going to be 2 this summer. And all of the holidays, the White House is such a special and beautiful place. Christmas time at the White House, it's decked out with trees and lights and just beauty. Those Christmas parties are such a joy. The Easter egg roll is a fun event. It's coming up on Monday. My son last year was a little baby. Now he'll be toddling around on the South Lawn on Monday. And I have the pleasure of reading to the children. So, those moments where I'm able to bring my family in and just enjoy how special of a place the White House is, that will go down as my favorite. Those will be the memories I remember forever.
I love that. Transferring now to college. When you were a college student, what was something that you held conviction-wise that allowed you to be courageous and bold on campus being a conservative that you can share with our students?
Free speech. When I was at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire, I realized I was one of the very few conservatives in my classes very quickly. And it would have been really easy, as you all know in this room, if you're part of your Turning Point chapter here on GW, to just shut up and be silent and, not share how you really feel, because as a conservative on a college campus today in America, you will be the ideological minority. It's just a fact. But we're changing that. I think we're changing that in a big way, thanks to Charlie and everything that you guys are doing. But you have to just speak freely and have the courage to be bold. And I wrote some editorials in the school newspaper that my liberal professors probably didn't like very much. But it allowed me to really, for the first time, I think, in my life, know that my voice mattered. Because after writing those newspaper articles, there were more students that were coming up to me saying, I agree with you. I'm just afraid to say it. I agree with you. I see some people shaking their heads who have had similar experiences. Courage is contagious, and not enough people have it. And if you have it, you'll inspire others to be courageous and to speak their mind and to speak freely, or maybe even change their mind. That's the whole purpose of this organization. And so I think just the courage to speak freely and be bold in your conviction is just tremendously important, and that's what Turning Point is all about.
And what about those students that feel afraid to share their convictions or even have courage going up against professors that they know will grade them differently? You know, Charlie used to get asked the question all the time, should I change my paper that I'm writing so that my professor gives me a better grade, or should I just stick to what I know in my heart to be right and just write that out even though I get a lesser grade for it?
You just have to do it. Just do it. One grade versus standing up for what you know to be true and righteous will lead you to so many greater paths, better friends, real friendships, better job opportunities. It will expand doors that you didn't even know existed when you choose to stand up for what you believe, rather than just silencing yourself because you want one good grade on one paper. You know, you have no idea what God will do in your life until you really start to be bold and courageous and open those doors, and He'll continue to open them for you.
After graduation, how did you know you wanted to get into the political landscape, and how did you go about that route?
Well, I actually applied to be a White House intern. And is anyone in here a White House intern or want to be a White House intern? We just opened the application, whitehouse.gov/intern. Go apply. It's a great experience. Someone's nodding their head over there. Go for it. I'll get your name after. We'll put in a good recommendation. Amazing experience. And I just applied. You know, I didn't have any political connections. You know, my parents are small business owners up in New Hampshire. Zero political experience, but my college was political just for being in New Hampshire, the first in the nation primary state. And all of you who go here have that advantage. You are at George Washington University. You are in the heart of our nation's capital. You are exactly where you need to be if politics is what you want to do. So God bless you all, and congratulations for being here, because you're already a step ahead of many of your peers at your age who might want to be involved in politics just by the nature of being in this city and up so close and personal. You could walk to the White House tonight and be there in 5 minutes. You can walk to Capitol Hill. It might take a little longer, but you can get there soon too. And you have this firsthand experience to history, which I didn't have. I grew up in New Hampshire and went to school there, but a colleague of mine at school, she was a White House intern under President Obama. And I remember her talking about it in class, and I thought, that sounds really cool. Like, I want to be a White House intern, so I just went online and applied. And God blessed me with that opportunity, which then led to so many doors opening after that, working in the White House full time, running for Congress, and then, of course, all the political opportunities since, and now this job today. And little did I know when I hit send on that application that I was even going to be accepted. Never thought it would lead me to this job. So take the risk and just apply. Apply for jobs you don't think you are qualified for or will get. Even if you have no political connections, it does not matter. You can get there with hard work and with putting yourself forward. That's what it takes, that first step. To just say, I want to do this, I'm going to try. You have to try, or else you'll never see if you can succeed.
And as you are in this role, how do you juggle family, career, faith all together? What is your roadmap for that?
I don't know if there is a roadmap.
I know there's not, but
it's something
I'm
still working on every day. No, being a mother is the best job in the world. I love my job as White House press secretary, but nothing compares to the job of being a mom, as you know. And I have become a mother of one and now soon two in the midst of the craziness of my career. And it's a lot of prioritization. You learn very quickly when you have a family that your family, you know, in my case, my husband and my son, come above anything else in life. That's just what happens. Aside from God, of course, God, your husband, your children, your family, your friends, and work. And I try to prioritize my life in that order. And it just means that when I'm at work, I try to be as present as I can and as best as I can. And when I get home for our bedtime routine with my son every night, which I prioritize making it home for that I'm as present as I can be as his mother and soaking up every waking second that I'm not at the office with him and with my husband. And just balancing that act, it's a tricky one. And there are days that are longer and days that are better. But ultimately, it's just about that balance and that list of priorities you have to make in order to make it work. And a support system, as you know, it takes a village. I have an amazing mother who's here. I have an amazing husband and friends and family who are always willing to help. And that really, I'm grateful for that. And I know not everyone has that. But it really is helpful with this job and being a mom. But I would tell all the women in the audience tonight, you can do both. You absolutely can. You may not want to, and that's okay too, but you can make it work. It just takes, again, prioritizing your time and leaning on those around you, having a great partner, a great husband to bear your children with, and to just take it day by day.
I know how that is. Charlie in dad mode was one of my favorite. Charlie in dad mode and vacation mode were two of like my favorite versions among all the other versions that I was obsessed with, still am. But he was very intentional about bedtime with the kids. There'd be even times where he was in a meeting and he'd look at his phone and be like, I gotta go. And he'd come straight home and he would read. Our daughter, she'd go into the bookshelf and pick out the book for him to read. And it was always some form of a Curious George book. But it's amazing because she would ask him to read the same story 5 times. And it wasn't like, oh, again. He was always so good about, yeah, of course, honey, we can read it again and again. But
I'm glad my kid's not the only one who asked for 5 times the same
story. But you have a point where bedtime is so important. And Charlie even knew, even with honoring the Sabbath, and that intentional quality time with your family is so priceless. And to prioritize that is something that really was able to take him to the next level, which is really special.
And it fuels you to be better at your job when you are able to take that time and be fully present. Like I find Monday mornings, I'm the most chipper and ready to go in the office, where most people are like, dragging their butts, exhausted. I'm like full of life because I had that weekend family time with my baby and my husband. That's so important. It fuels you. And that's why I tell young women, you can and you should do both, because actually being a mom and having a family and having a job, it gives you the greatest perspective, because you can have the hardest, worst, most stressful day at your job. But when you go home to a beautiful baby and children who are just happy to see you no matter what, it is the most refreshing, beautiful thing. And it gives you the best perspective on life. Like nothing else matters except for that. Who cares what the Daily Beast wrote today? Who cares what the headlines are? Like, I have an amazing son who just wants to be loved and play trucks and read the same dino book 5 times in a row. And that really gives you the perspective you need, I think, to be successful in your career. And it helps you to be not only a better mother, but also better at your job too.
No, totally. There'll be people that are like, did you see what they're saying about you on X? And I'm like, no, I don't have time. And actually, quite frankly, I really do not care. I am actually really busy right now playing Magna-Tiles, and that is way more important.
Changing diapers.
Yes, than hearing the endless onslaught that really is just noise. Noise. Is there anything that you can leave with our students, an idea, a strategy, a life goal, anything that you want to share with them to take with them as they go about their day and the rest of the school year? School year is almost over, so even for the seniors, is there anything, remember when you graduated college, was there anything that you held on in your heart of like, now I get to go start my career, or do you go to graduate school? Like, is there anything you want to share with them before they?
Yeah. People always ask me, like, what advice can you give me, young people? And I'm going to give you a piece of advice that is not novel. You've definitely heard it before. It's very simplistic. work hard. I know it sounds so lame, and you're probably like, wow, she couldn't have thought of something better for us, but nothing beats hard work. There is no substitute for it. And be that person that stays at the office later than your boss every single day. Be that person that shows up first to work or to your internship. You know, be that person that so noticeably works their butt off at every single thing that they do that you can't go unnoticed in whatever opportunity you're in, whether that's school, academia, graduate school, whether any of you go on to serve in our military. People will, oh, thank you. God bless you. Thank you for your service. People notice the hustlers. And now as a boss, you know, with a staff, you notice those who work hard and hustle, and you notice those who don't. And so you never want to be that person. You want to be that person who shows up relentlessly every day with a positive attitude, willing to work hard. And that's going to help get you to wherever you want to go. There's just no substitute for it.
I agree. Charlie used to say, work harder, be better. And he would even give advice saying, if they can't hire you because they don't have the funds to do so, tell them that you'll work for free. And show them your work ethic, show them that you're bought in for the mission, and if you do that properly, you will have a position.
That's right.
For that company, for that organization, for that campaign.
Absolutely. One of my first real jobs, I guess you could say, was at WMUR, Channel 9 News, ABC affiliate in Manchester, New Hampshire. And I was a freshman in college, and this is one television station in New Hampshire, by the way. They're like the big deal up there. And I thought I wanted to be a broadcast journalist at that time, how the tables have turned. And so I called up the news director, Alicia is her name. And I said, I want to work. She's like, who are you? I said, I'm a student at St. A's down the street. I want to work here. I just want to be in a newsroom and see if this is what I want to do for my career. I will literally sweep your floors. And when I said that, she said, I'm not hiring, but I'll hire you. And so I started Saturday night shifts from like 5 p.m. to 11:30, which as a college student, that's a rough time, okay? To be working in a newsroom, as you know, 5 p.m. on a Saturday night. Not ideal, but I took the job. And then it led me to so many other opportunities in college. So yes, Charlie was right about that. And it's age-old advice, but it will never cease to exist because it's just true and it's real.
I didn't realize we're going over, so I still want to get to some questions from the audience. So we can...
We could just chat all night.
Yeah, we can chat all night, or we can start.
Are you guys enjoying this, or is this fun? Okay. You're so quiet.
I know. Before we take any questions, I do have to ask you, because I get this question a lot. What is a Bible verse or a book in the Bible that is, I mean, the whole Bible is my favorite, but what is the one that you sometimes come back to recenter and refocus?
Almost every day. From the book of Psalm 46:5, God is within her. She will not fall. I see some other ladies like that. I want to get that tattooed on my forehead some days because I feel it so deeply.
No regrets.
I won't do that. But that verse is just in my heart, and I recite it multiple times a day. I think about it and recite it to myself out loud and privately. Every time before I take the podium, sometimes when I'm at the podium in the middle of a briefing, I will just repeat that verse in my mind, and it just gives me the fortitude that I need to know that God is with me, and I will not fall physically or mentally or figuratively or literally, and it gives me the strength. It's my favorite verse, hands down.
I love it. All right, let's take some questions from the student. I can't see. Oh, okay, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, I'm Heidi. I'm a student from Georgetown University, and I'm studying journalism. In class, we were talking about how the Trump administration, for the first time ever, officially incorporated content creators and podcasters into the White House press pool. This obviously breaks a century-old tradition at the White House, and I'm personally a big fan of Riley Gaines and her podcasts. I know she does a lot of work with Turning Point and Erika, and it was really great to see her have the opportunity to ask you, Karoline, a question in the press briefing room. So my question for you today, Karoline, is what are the standards you're using to choose which podcaster, which content creator, or which independent journalists gets White House press access? And should we expect to see more of that in the future?
Sure. Well, thank you. And God bless you for studying journalism. We need more real journalists, investigative journalists in this country. So I applaud you for taking up that profession. We decided very early, actually prior to my taking the job during the transition period between the campaign and the White House, I spoke with, those of us who worked on the president's communication team during the campaign about the need to shake up the White House press corps. And the president did such a phenomenal job in the 2024 race, as you all know, of really owning that non-traditional media lane. He was willing to go places that no other candidate was. Kamala Harris couldn't because she would have word salad herself to death. I don't even think that's a word. I just made it up. But, she was afraid to go on Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn or some of these other podcasts. And Joe Biden certainly couldn't do it because he wasn't even awake for half the campaign. So President Trump was able to really own and dominate that non-traditional media lane. And so as his press secretary, I thought it would have been a dereliction of my duty serving him if we did not welcome those new media voices into the briefing room. And so we announced it, I think at one of my very first press briefings, that we would be opening the doors to non-traditional media, and we have. And we've been able to have people like Riley Gaines and many other podcasters and content creators and influencers in that seat in the briefing room, and to bring them in and to give them daily access, daily passes. Many of them we see on a daily basis. They cover the White House as full-time jobs now. They have seats on Air Force One. Jack Posobiec joined us in the White House press pool. You can imagine the looks on the CNN host faces when they showed up for the trip with President Trump, and Jack Posobiec was in the press pool, but we love him. And, they have bigger audiences and followings than many of the legacy media journalists do. So they deserve a seat at the table. We feel strongly about that, and we're glad to welcome them. And we don't base it on ideology. I've had liberal commentators and liberal podcast hosts, and I would welcome more in the new media seat. And it's about reaching as many Americans as we can with the president's message. That's what I view the core function of my job as being.
How do they apply for that? How would an independent journalist apply to be able to be a part of the press pool?
So we have it up on our website on whitehouse.gov, or they can email the press team, press@who.eop.gov. And we've credentialed hundreds of new media journalists, and they don't have to come every day, but you can show up on a briefing day. We'll give you a press pass. You have to be vetted by Secret Service and go through the whole process just like any other legacy journalist has. And we abide by those guidelines. But then once you're in, you're in. And if you show up and you're willing to pay to come on those trips, we welcome them to do that and to travel with the president and to be firsthand of history and to report on that to their audiences. And it's been a lot of fun. We've been able to have fun with it and meet so many amazing people who have real voices and real audiences out there.
I love it. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm a student here at GW. You are obviously part of this administration and one that is always under the spotlight, and you, of course, are as press secretary. How do you balance it all? And you're about to be a mother too, so what's your day-to-day life like?
Day-to-day. People ask me that. My assistant wants me to do a TikTok on a day in the life. Do we think I should do that? I think you should. Because it's different every day. It is different every day. But I wake up very early. I read the news front to back. If my son wakes up before I leave, he's been sleeping in lately. He's being a lazy boy. I know. I'm like, good for you, buddy.
My kids are up early.
Yeah, no, he's been sleeping late. So sometimes I miss him in the mornings. But if he's up before I leave, I get my time in with him and get him up and get him his bottle and start feeding him breakfast. And then I get myself ready and get out the door early. Our mornings in the West Wing do start early. And then I work, and then I make it home for bedtime. And that's my day after day after day. And you never know what a day in the West Wing, especially working for President Trump, will bring. And that's the beauty of the job. That's what makes it fun, also what makes it very challenging. But they're long days, Monday through Friday, and then sometimes Saturdays and Sundays are crazy too, depending on what's happening in the news and what the president has going on in his schedule and in his world. But it's a jam-packed day, daily at the White House.
Do you have to travel with him every time that he
Not every time, no, thankfully. I have a great team and staff who will take some of the weekend trips to Mar-a-Lago. But, the bigger trips, the foreign travel, I've been so blessed to join him all around the world. We literally flew around the globe last year when we went to Asia. And the pilot on Air Force One actually announced when we were finally landing at DC, congratulations, you have just flown on Air Force One around the entire globe. And we were all so tired and we were like, yeah, we feel it. That was a crazy trip. But to go to South Korea and Malaysia and Japan and all of these amazing places has been a real honor. And to meet heads of state and to be part of that is probably, other than the Easter egg roll, my other favorite memory on this job.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you both for talking to us tonight. My name is Mokul. I'm a student at GW as well. As you both know, there's a lot of conservative students across the country who are attending mainly liberal universities where we face censorship, event disruption, grading bias, and just a lack of respect from peers, mentors, and the university itself. And it can be incredibly draining and isolating for students who might not be vocal about their political beliefs or who aren't part of a conservative community on campus. And I speak from experience. And I wanted to ask, what advice do you guys have for students who might not fit in ideologically with their own community or who just want to fight for free speech, core American values, and there's just more diversity in higher education viewpoint in our nation's capital?
I'll just say from the experience of seeing my husband do it, he was so courageous, like you talked about going to the Lion's Den, that he gave his life for free speech. I think, and I've said this before, the more that you take light out of dark places, the darker it will get. So I just pray that each and every one of you, especially students, look to my husband as the example to speak with truth and take your freedom of speech from the standpoint of responsibility of engaging in discourse and dialogue, but doing it in a way where you are obviously standing for what you believe in, but also giving the people who don't agree with you an opportunity to share why. Because when you listen, then you can respond better rather than just, being like, oh, we don't agree on anything. You might actually agree on more than you think, but I just want to encourage you guys to continue to watch my husband's videos and see how he engaged. And even what I loved the most is seeing the evolution of him being on campus. At first, he would hold the microphone while the other person across the table was speaking. And as time went on, he put the microphone down to actually listen and then be able to engage appropriately from there, and really just doing what even Jesus did, which was ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. But again, I just hope that my husband continues to be an inspiration to all of you of how to properly engage with those that you do not agree with.
And I would say, yes. Charlie was the best at that. He was the best at that, being able to stand a foot away from someone who is ardently disagreeing with you, sometimes in vile ways, with disgusting rhetoric, but still being able to maintain his composure and respect for the other side of the debate, no matter the issue, was something that I think we can all continue to learn from. And you're already taking your own advice. I mean, the fact that you're here and you're standing up there with the spotlight on you and the microphone in your hand asking a question at an event like this, where I'm sure there's many people on this campus who will not appreciate that all of you showed up tonight. The fact that you're just here and you're involved, you're taking your own advice, whether you know it or not. So, God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This will be the last question.
One more
after this. Hi, I'm Danielle, and I'm from Club America, and I'm a junior in high school. I know that Charlie was incredibly effective at communicating conservative values to young men, but many women my age seem to be moving in the opposite direction regarding marriage and career. So what do you think needs to change to make the messaging more compelling to women my generation?
That's a good question, Erika.
From the
while
standpoint,
I sit here and think.
From the standpoint of telling them career versus family?
Yeah.
Well, from my experience, before I met Charlie, I did have my own company, but I built it in a way where once I met Charlie and then we got married and had a family, it could run on its own. So I could focus on being a wife and being with my kids. And that was my priority. That was everything to me. I don't think there's a one size fits all. There's single mothers out there. There's people that have different circumstances. I think you really need to pray about where the Lord is taking you. And if you do have a husband that's supportive and you are blessed to be a stay-at-home mom, that's just as much of a massive role and a job as being a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You are the guardian of your home, and raising your children is the most precious blessing that you could have as a woman, because as a woman you were made to be a mother. And so I just would implore anyone who is struggling with that option to really pray, and you and your husband are able to make that decision together as what's best for your family and your children. Okay, and then real quick, is there anything that we can be praying? I can't see.
One more?
You want to take one more?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll take one more. Sorry.
Please.
We're just really running over, so that's the only way. Go ahead.
All right, I'll speak loudly. My name is Ryan Caldwell. I go to GW. My question is about the Save America Act.
Yes.
Who do not
I'm glad you're calling it. It is the Save America Act, not the Save Act.
It's an act that requires various forms of ID and proofs of citizenship in order to prevent voter fraud. However, voter fraud is incredibly rare. According to the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative database, by the way, there have only been a few hundred cases of voter fraud since 1982 out of hundreds of millions of votes. Additionally, according to the Brennan Institute of Justice, there are 21.8 million Americans who do not have easy access to proofs of citizenship. So my question to you is it worth it to risk millions of Americans from voting in order to prevent a few hundred cases of voter fraud?
First of all, thank you for the question. No need to boo. It's an honest question. I'm happy to give you an honest answer. First of all, I have not seen the data you provided, so I'd like to go check it myself and make sure that it's actually accurate in the way that you're citing it. And there is certainly much more, I believe, voter fraud in this country, and I'm sure the statistics back it up, than what you cited with one survey. And why are you okay with any voter fraud in the United States of America? We are the greatest country on the face of the earth, and we should have the safest and most secure elections of any country on earth. And it is
transparent.
And transparent. And it is absolutely absurd that voter ID is not the land of the law in this country already. And 89%, 80 to 90%, based on which poll you look at, of Americans in this country support bringing a piece of identification to the polls when you cast a ballot in an American election. And that is all the Save America Act is asking people to do, to prove you're a citizen and to bring an ID to the polls to vote in elections in the greatest country in the history of the planet. And this idea that the Save America Act would disenfranchise anyone is frankly insulting, that Americans aren't smart enough to get the proper identification to go vote and show up to the ballot box. So I will end by saying we absolutely should pass the Save America Act. It's a common sense piece of legislation, and Democrats would be wise to get on board with this, because the only people in the world, except for maybe the gentleman who asked the question, seem to be politicians in this city who don't want voter ID and proof of citizenship in American elections. So I think everybody on Capitol Hill should pass that piece of legislation.
Okay, thank you for your question. Yep. Is there anything that we can be praying for you for, as, you know, obviously you're pregnant, but is there anything specific that we can be praying for you as you go about your day? And
it's so sweet. Pray for the safety of everyone at the White House, myself and the president, of course, and all those who work for him and our great cabinet who are working so hard in the face of disagreement. I would pray for that. Thank you. All
right. God bless you guys. Thank you for coming. Have a good night.
Do I have Zier or just Benny? Well, that concludes Turning Point USA's This is the Turning Point tour. Stop in George Washington University in our nation's capital. You saw Erika Kirk, the widow of the late Charlie Kirk, extending his legacy to all of the students and attendees there at George Washington University with a number of dates announced yet to come. Obviously, this extends a tour that started back last year to continue Charlie's legacy and memory about extending freedom and especially freedom of speech and civil discourse. And we saw a number of people be able to ask questions at the end of that. I want to go to David Zier and Benny Harmony now. Benny, was so interesting. They seemed like at the end there, it got a little kind of rancorous because you had someone that asked a question that I kind of thought, and maybe a lot of people thought, oh, Save America Act. We're going to talk about we should all be for voter ID. And instead, he was arguing against it. And I thought Karoline Leavitt answered it beautifully and seemed to get a thunderous applause when she said, why would you be okay with any voter or fraud, no matter how minute it is? It was a wonderful way to answer that question. Your thoughts on that, Benny, and kind of what you saw in the room at that moment?
Yeah, I agree. Now, the Save America Act is something that we've been talking about a lot in the press briefing room. Caroline gets questions every single day that she does her briefings about this act. Now, there has been the backlash. The Democrats have used those certain talking points. When I was actually in the new media seat just, a few weeks ago, I asked her the point that the Democrats were trying to make, saying that the Save America Act will make it so that married women can't vote. And she said that's absolutely not, that is absolutely false. She said, if you are married, you have a driver's license. She said, you have an ID, you're fine. It's one thing. Show an ID when you go to vote. And so it was pretty simple, point. And like you said, I thought he was going to go the other way with it too. But that's why I think they were chanting one more question, because I think some of those liberal students wanted to get a question. Now, I'm sure David will tell you about something else we saw just here about 20, 30 minutes. It's been happening these past, there's this little walkout situation. So I'll let David take that one. But overall, I thought the questions were pretty good. And that final one, I think it was good. A liberal got to ask a question.
Yeah, it was good, but it does speak, David, to, and I know that Benny's setting you up for this because you noticed some things that were happening in there, that when that student asked that question, Karoline Leavitt said, hey, don't boo, he's just asking a question. There were a number of people who applauded the question, which means that there had to have been a certain number of liberal students in that audience. So it wasn't just all Turning Point USA supporters. There had to have been some detractors in there. What did you see with respect to that, and in terms of this potential walkout, or what did you notice?
Well, the program was super. Jack Posobiec came out with a heartwarming message for Easter, and Erika Kirk got a wonderful, enthusiastic greeting, and the Karoline Leavitt interview with Erika was really intriguing. But about a half an hour ago, Benny noticed that people were starting to get up and dribble out, and it was totally coordinated. We saw what looked to be two professors, a guy in his 60s or 70s, and these people, they actually staggered they must have coordinated what time are we going to leave. So about 100 and 150 maybe left the auditorium of about 1,400 in here and started to leave. But then we figured out that they were trying to probably hijack the Q&A, and I don't know if they got the Q up on the stage, but Karoline Leavitt can handle anything, because one of them got through. One of them got through with a planted question, and she hit it out of the park and shut this guy down on the Save America Act.
Yeah, it's interesting, David, because I think about the fact that, again, what this event is about is an homage to Charlie Kirk and what he established, which they mentioned in the conversation between Erika and Karoline, which is civil discourse. Being able to ask questions. I noticed that she said that when over time, Charlie would not hold the microphone when the other person was speaking, but actually set it down. And that's an act of deference to say, I'm listening to you. I want to actually hear what you have to say. Be the person who listens to your detractor who's asking those questions. So it's kind of ironic that we see at this event. And David, here's another point to bring up. If this indeed was a coordinated event, and it sounds like it was based on what you and Benny saw, that means that a number of students that were wrapped around the theater trying to get in to see this event could not.
Saw this in Tulsa, during COVID. I was out there covering the first rally back since COVID for Donald Trump, and people started to gobble up the tickets online. I'm sure the professors and classes, I'm sure they must have had a little cabal going to do it. I almost wanted them to actually get their 80 people that lined up there, not all of them TPUSA supporters. I wanted them to start asking questions to Karoline Leavitt, because she probably could have smashed it. It was weak. It was weak, but the event tonight was a success. They're building up the TPUSA chapter here at GW.
Yeah, and Benny, just to touch off that, rather than doing what the one guy did at the end, which is actually asked a question and he thought he had a slam dunk, and unfortunately he got the dunk placed on his head, in my opinion. But why didn't those students, if this is part of a coordinated event to walk out, why didn't they do what free speech is supposed to do, which is exactly what Charlie was indicating, which is get up to the mic and ask a question. Let the debate take place. Don't walk out, because what's going to happen is the mainstream media that Karoline referred to, they're going to report, there were these walkouts. Yep. This is what happened. They're going to say, that no one wanted to be there. As soon as Karoline Leavitt came out, everybody pieced out because the conservative people, it's no longer a movement. MAGA is fractured. That's the story they want to tell. But in essence, they didn't have the cojones to get up to the microphone and ask an actual legitimate question about anything that could be asked of Karoline or Erika. That's what I find highly ironic.
No, you're right. And I want to go back to our conversation earlier, Bo, where we talked about kindness, right? The conservative movement is kindness. It is conversation. It is debate. It is questions. It is conversation. And when I noticed there was this one massive wave where all of a sudden we're sitting up there on the deck where the cameras are, I looked down and the entire top section of the auditorium was clearing out. And it was actually, I was like, kind of in shock at that, and I was like, is this really happening, what I think it is? But I think it speaks to the bigger picture, Bo. I think it speaks to the character, the values, and touching on what Jack Posobiec said up on that stage before Erika came out, before Karoline came out, God. This all is about faith. This is a week of holiness. This is a week of Easter, and these students, probably led by professors, because like David said, there was a couple older folks, which I'm going to try to go back onto the school website and figure out who these people were, because it really made me upset. But they, instead of going up to the microphone and speaking, they walked out and they thought they were doing something. The best part about all of this is Erika and Karoline didn't stop talking. Erika and Karoline did not even really probably care or notice that they were doing this, because that is how little what their actions do mean, because of their lack of faith, because of their lack of God, and their lack of anything that matters. All they want to do is vengeful revenge for something that they feel was done wrong against them. How about instead you sit and listen to what Karoline is saying. Listen to about how women can be mothers and also in a career. Listen to the inspiration she is giving young women, but instead we have colored hair people walking out thinking they're doing something with hoodies on, winter jackets. Okay, Bo, it's not even that cold in D.C., but instead they choose to do this. That says more about them than anything else. And you know what? I'm a little fired up right now. I guess you could call it passion. But after all of this, after speaking about God on stage, they decided to do this. So I hope they're happy.
Yeah. Well, David, only about 2 minutes left, and we got to throw to Studio 6B. But, I think about what Benny's saying, and I even think about what we're in the Holy Week, the message of Jesus Christ, that Pharisees, that the law tried to attack him and then eventually crucified him. And in spite of all that Jesus could say to them, approach them with love. and say, you don't know the law, you don't know God, you don't know the God that I know, because you're turning away from it. And I think Benny's right. We have to have an example. We have to set the example. Those two fine ladies on stage set that example, kept talking, did not castigate, did not chastise. They sat there with love, with openness, with kindness, and preached the good news. And that's what we saw today on that stage, no matter what those people walked out did.
Yes, and not only did Charlie engage in the conversation and the dialogue, but he did hear the people out and then came back with with a really great response to these people on these campuses. But also, I think it was Jack Prosovic that pointed out, again, they killed him because they couldn't silence him and they couldn't compete with him on the debate venue. Right? They couldn't match his intellect. They couldn't match how well read he was. And that's something that you don't see on the left. You might see some radical communist professor, I read, Mein Kampf and all this stuff, and I read, Karl Marx and all this stuff, but they're not, they're not Charlie Kirk. There's no way.
No, it's too tough to do that. But, in this Holy Week, when we have to think about the Christians that we are and to turn the other cheek, it's important to remember that. They killed Jesus because they didn't like what he had to say, too. So we should remember that, be the example, lead by example. Charlie Kirk was an amazing man, and he taught us that we should lead with kindness, to listen to each other, lead with love, and also to march forward and to stand up for what you believe in. Benny, David, thank you so much for being with me tonight. We'll sign off now and turn it over to Studio 6B. Thank you all for watching. This is the Turning Point Tour at George Washington University. We'll see you soon.
We are live from Studio 6B, Real America's Voice. All of you joining us from This is the Turning Point. Welcome on in on a Thursday night. Great event put on by Turning Point. Obviously, Karoline Leavitt, Erika Kirk, Jack Posobiec. Great stuff down there in Washington, D.C. George Washington University, I believe it was. 20 minutes till the hour here. Hour one, live from Studio 6B. Glad you're joining us if you're coming out of that. Slick Rick's here. He's doing some sports actually right now. Rick Delgado's here. Aaron and Fran holding it down on a Thursday. Welcome on in, Real America's Voice. We talked a lot about Pam Bondi here so far in hour one. We'll talk a little bit more about her, I'm sure, and some other news. But Slick's doing sports right now. Sports is brought to you by Mike Lindell. Slicks, or anything else?
Yeah, it's following up. So on that ESPN report about talking with the president, ESPN stating that the phone conversation was not captured on video, like we just saw, but Woods could be heard saying, "Thank you so much," as he hung up and deputy approached. It wasn't clear if Woods was referring to President Donald Trump, whose former daughter-in-law, Vanessa Trump, is dating Woods. And but apparently he did say he was on the phone with the president. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment on whether Trump spoke to Woods after the crash.
I don't know what the audio sounds like here, but here it is. Here's that part that they're talking about. If you want to throw this up, Aaron, in the box there for a second. Here it is. Okay, there's no audio. I guess no audio. So
this is the call he's on.
This is the part where he hangs up and says, "I was talking to the president."
I mean, it could have been the president for the Hair Club for Men, but
talking to the president there. You sure you want to arrest me?
Yeah.
Well, that was the power play, right?
Do you know who I am? Yeah,
that was the ultimate PBA card.
Yeah, like I said, I have a PBA card, but man, that's a good one. I was just on the phone with the president.
Yeah, you're not going to do.
I may try that actually. I mean, I haven't gotten pulled over in years, but
well, let me know when the president speaks to us, and then we can start pulling that.
Well, you know what?
He's overdue anyway. By the way,
we can just program the White House phone number into our phone and be like, look, see, it says White House.
I always imagine if
I don't think it comes up White House.
It does, actually. I think it does.
What a ride it'd be if we ever got the president on the phone. He'd probably want to talk to me right away. Sports, let's get the sports, Slick. Who do we like in the tournament on Sunday? I know it. Him and I would be going for an hour. And that's a wrap in Sports, Big D. Back to you.
19 till the hour, live from Studio 6B. Again, welcome on in. Those of us joining on Real America's Voice who were just watching This is the Turning Point. We talked a lot about Pam Bondi, obviously getting fired. Delgado, anything else left on her we didn't touch on?
Well, not really in terms of any, I want to say, opinion stuff, at least coming from my end. We talked about the Eric Swalwell stuff that just came out. We'll see how that starts to shake out. And it's kind of interesting that came out right now. Like literally this morning, and then all of a sudden you see that
that's
she's
just
been
weird
relieved from her. Yeah, it is.
Like, how is she friends with Eric Swalwell of all people? If that is in fact the case.
Well, I don't see her out there denying it. And hey, as long as we don't have any, I don't know if she's married or not. As long as we don't have her significant other or somebody showing up next day with some cross-dressing photos, I think we should be okay.
He's in the balloon business, apparently.
We never talked about that
because it happened I think Tuesday when the story broke.
Yeah,
and then of course Wednesday we had the president.
We weren't on last night, really.
Yeah, I talked to somebody who said to me, actually, why didn't you lead with that story? And I don't know how everybody feels about this. And I said, I don't think it should be a story.
How can that not be a story?
Because I don't want to know. It's not my business what he does. And I would want the same if it was you. I mean, would it surprise me if I found out you were dressing up as not at all?
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
I would. That's your. But I don't think that should. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't think I'd want to know, and I don't think we have to know.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a story.
Yeah,
I think
it's kind of a good story.
Well, I didn't say it's not a good story. That's different. I just said I don't know that I feel like it should be a story.
It's got to be a story.
What you're doing behind closed doors is what you're doing behind closed doors. So I don't know.
Yeah. But it's not like just you or me. This is somebody.
Well, I'm interested in what people think about that.
Yeah, well, we'll call the segment Crosstalk.
Yeah, Crosstalk coming up when we get back right after this.
And now here's Chris Cunahan with the Leaf Filter Gutter Report and what changing weather conditions can mean for your home. Chris?
Our patented leaf filter technology keeps your gutters clog-free year-round. No matter where you live, no matter the climate. Locally trained professionals will clean, repair, and install the Leaf Filter Gutter Protection System. Leaf Filter guarantees clog-free gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
This was the last thing my Charlie ever wrote. The message of Jesus changes everything, changes your life, your choices, your eternity. And Charlie wanted to leave behind something that would point people to Christ, not to fame or power,